Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, welcome to another amazing movie episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's lining up cranes that can get to work faster, get home to record faster? I'll go with the joke instead.
That's good. No, because you're stealing mine. That's fine. I'm Bill Tucker from A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast, and I want to use this opportunity to shout out the real heroes of this film, the construction workers and crane operators of New York City. You gentlemen and ladies are the true heroes.
They all would have died if they wouldn't have moved their cranes.
That's it. Disaster. Everyone's a lizard.
I am the spectacular king of useless knowledge, Joe Butler.
And
Did we lose Blair?
I think we lost Blair.
Oh no.
My name is Blair Farrell from comicbookvideogames.com, and I read on dailybugle.net that ivermectin is a way better vaccine against lizard man syndrome.
Interesting.
So we are here to talk about another Patreon episode, or another Patreon voted episode, I should say, because it's not actually on Patreon. But we are here to talk about Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. And did this come out in 2012? I forgot to pull up the wiki before I started talking.
Yes.
2012.
Yep.
And directed by Mark Webb, who got to do, I think, did he do the second one too? Can't remember.
He did, yes.
Okay. I have questions about that second movie. But so yeah, this is the reboot, the supposed to be reboot trilogy of the Spider-Man, because I think if they didn't make more Spider-Man movies, they lost the rights to it. So they made more Spider-Man movies.
I have a very weird question for y'all. I think Blair might be able to answer me. How often do y'all read the Spider-Man comic?
I haven't. I started actually reading in late 2011 because I put them down for a while because, well, actually, I wasn't really religiously reading comics, but then my friend or my former roommate was reading comics, and it was around the One More Day debacle, and he was like, everyone's really mad about this. So then I started reading again around late 2011, and I got really into them, and then I lost the job in 2019, so I just had to stop reading comics as it was too expensive. So I haven't touched them in a while.
Comics are surprisingly expensive.
Yeah, they are. I don't read at all right now. I only read comics when it's for the show. So,
what about you, Bill?
Yeah, I said this on the show a number of times, but I don't read comic books. I think I've looked at 10 in my life. I used to have friends in high school who used to hang out at the comic book store. So I used to hang out there because they were cool, and I thought I was cool. But I don't think I've ever purchased comic books. So the answer for me is no. All my knowledge of these things comes from the movies. And this one being, of course, the 2012 version. But yeah, no, comic books were never my thing. So
I have
useless in this conversation.
That's fine. I have a firm belief that this is based off the Ultimate series, which was kind of a stepping stone for a lot of it. A lot of the stuff, lore-wise, I believe does come from the Ultimates, with Ultimates being the more modernization of comic stuff. Because in the Ultimates, because gets compared a lot to this, mainly because in the Ultimates, Peter's parents have more of a doing with Spider-Man in the beginning as much as anything else that happens throughout the series.
I haven't read Ultimate Spider-Man in a while. I have all the trades. The only thing I really remember about his parents is they created the Venom suit. Because I know leading up, I guess we'll get into it, but like leading into the marketing of this movie, I feel it was an era, and I was trying to find more examples where it was movies where it was, you'd think you know the story, but here's the real story, like Dracula Untold. Where it's like, here's the real story about Dracula, and that was kind of like the initial teasers, and then the trailers were like, oh, I still don't know the history about my parents, and like, from what I know about the parents, or Peter Parker's parents in like the regular continuity, is that most stories involving them are just trash. Like, they're either like robots or secret agents that just kind of completely torpedo like the relatability of Peter Parker as a character. So for them to hinge so much upon this, and I mean, the sequel just really doubles down on it, is like really strange.
Okay. I mean, I never read any Ultimate Spider-Man or any of that. I don't read comics, unfortunately, very much.
Wait, but you have a ton of them. Like, you collect them. You're always talking about.
I don't read them. I just
you
buy
don't
them
read
because
them.
they look cool on my wall.
Oh, you just hoard them. Oh, you collect them.
Yes,
I'm sure
I hoard them.
So you
I
collect
decorate.
them, but you don't read them. Okay.
Yes, I do actually own 2 runs of comics. I own almost the entire run of X Factor, or most of it for some. I can't tell you why, because there is no good reason. I just did it. And I own almost the entire, I think I have the entire run except for like 1 issue of Invaders because it's a World War II. It's 1960s, but it's a story about Captain America fighting World War II, and it has tons of like Nazi stuff on the covers and them beating the shit out of Nazis, and I love those covers.
That's a good cover.
So I have I have that. That's why I bought the whole run, because I'm like, this is awesome. I want to have a cover of Captain America punching a Nazi in the face. Like, I want that.
So let me get this real quick, because you are an enigma sometimes, Mike Albertin. That's why I love you, and that's why you're a good egg in almost all respects. Oh, I say all respects. You say, oh, I have, you're talking to a comic book friend. You're like, oh yeah, I had the entire run of such and such. Oh, how'd you like it? Oh no. I just have it. It's there.
To be fair, I'm worried if I open some of those books, I might not be able to, they might not last.
That's fair. So they're all sealed and whatnot.
I want to read it. I actually was looking for it digitally on websites, and they didn't have it, or I would have read it, because I want to read it. But it's also I like covers. I mean, like, I have above me, I have the first appearance of Hawkeye, where I'm 99% positive I open that plastic, that book will crumble to pieces in front of me. So, because it's from the 1960s and it's not in good condition, but it's.
Oh yeah, I mean, never open something like that. I mean, there's probably like a trade or reprint or a free comic book day issue of like reprint of like, here's the first appearance of Hawkeye if you actually want to read the story.
Oh, it will never. Yeah, because it's missing staples. It's like it's in shit condition, but it's mine. So
there you go.
But yeah, no, I don't. I just don't read a lot. They're not. I bought entire runs with the idea I was going to read them, and that never happened.
Games I've bought I'll never ever play because time is an enemy of us all. So I totally get it. We all have that.
It was
go ahead. Please.
It was a thing. I don't really collect comics anymore, but it was kind of like my depression thing when I went through a really bad depression because my ex. I got into comics. I had to get into something that wasn't something I was already into, and that's where comics came. And then when I met my now wife, I kind of fell out of comics. So yeah,
it happens.
Well, now I collect video games again.
I just want to take a minute to talk about the film itself and kind of how I like to talk about directors and actors.
Sure.
I'm dorky like that.
You know more than I do about that stuff. I don't pay attention.
Listen, I read it on the website. Mark Webb, as we mentioned, directed this film. It's a classic Marvel move where he directed 500 Days of Summer. That was his first feature film. It's actually good. I remember liking it quite a bit. Yeah, I remember liking it. It was kind of one of those, not a rom-com, but had like an honest feel to it. It was pretty good. And he goes from there right to Amazing Spider-Man. Like, do not pass go. So one successful movie that was well received, and then he gets the reins to a Spider-Man movie. But he was mostly known for music videos, which is very interesting. He did a lot of music videos for a lot of punk bands of the day. He did a bunch for Green Day. He did a bunch for like MXPX. He did the Ocean Avenue video for Yellow Card. He's done probably over 60 or 70 music videos. So that's what he's kind of was known for before his feature film. And since I think his last one was in 2017. So it's it's interesting guy. He's a music video guy, and I think that's it shows in some of the scenes. And there's one in particular that is literally just a little music video in the middle of this film, which makes sense. Now I kind of know that. But it's interesting to see this guy kind of go from, sensitive coming of age rom-com to a superhero movie that is also a bit of a coming of age romantic, not really comedy, but has that kind of teenage feel to it. Of course, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are the stars of this movie.
And they're great together.
They are fun. They're good. They're both very good actors and actresses. They're okay. They're good. They're good. I'll say good.
I love the chemistry between them. I love the way they interact.
Like the saving grace of this movie.
I don't know. I couldn't get past the fact that, take a wild guess on how old Andrew Garfield was in this film.
35.
27. He was 27. You guys split the difference on that. And Emma Stone was 22.
He's too old.
And it always felt like to me that it were two people, especially when they're doing their giggly, awkward, spinning around and doing nonsense like that. Shut up, just talk. It just felt very forced to me. But these are two very good actors and actresses doing really good work. So yeah, I agree, they're good. But anytime they kind of connected or tried to be teenagery, it always fell a little short for me personally.
Okay, I look forward to asking my question I have to ask every time we do a movie together, so you know what's coming up later when we get there. But okay.
I know.
There's a very funny SNL skit with like Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone where they make fun of them kissing in the movie, and it's like the SNL skit's like super dramatic and like super funny, and like they're like literally like chewing on each other's chins at one point.
That's the one where that was for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's the one where like Chris Martin from Coldplay just casually strolls in.
The second one I remember not liking it. It's been a while, but that's the one I remember being very upset with.
There's a reason. So you're a big Star Trek guy, yeah?
Yes.
And how was you feeling about Star Trek Picard season 2?
I haven't watched any of Picard.
Okay, well, the Star Trek reboot series was written by a duo. I think written and produced by a duo, Robert Orci and Alex Kurtzman, and they're hacks. They're absolute hacks.
Shameless hacks.
And
indeed.
They're the guys who were put in charge of like writing The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So if you want to know why it's terrible, it's Sony kind of pushing we're going to turn this one thing into a cinematic universe. This wasn't even supposed to be a trilogy. There were supposed to be 4. They already had 3 dates set for 3 and 4. And like a Sinister Six spin-off directed by Drew Goddard, and like a Venom movie. And yeah, so they put Alex V's duo in charge of the sequel, and it's crazy watching this movie and thinking about the sequel because I haven't seen it in forever. And they almost don't feel like they're in the same universe. Like that's a cartoon, and this is taken so seriously.
Yeah, I mean that's what I like. Like I like this movie a lot. Like even just the opening. Like I hadn't watched this since I saw it in theaters, and I hadn't seen it since theaters. I don't think, because none of it. Like I remembered very little. But before we get to I gotta say the first thing you see in this movie is the title screen, and I laughed. Because Marvel movies, like the MCU, they hold off the title screen. Yeah, we talk about this way too much for some reason, and so that amused me that it's right in the beginning.
There's two issues I have with this movie. One, we'll get into it probably towards the end, but the other one we'll get to after a bit. But I didn't really care for the suit in this movie.
What?
I like the suit.
It's probably one of my least favorite suits. It's the eyes. I don't like the eyes.
Okay, fair. I think I just really like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, so I can overlook so much in this movie too. I mean, I like this movie in general, but I really like him as Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's Sony really did him dirty, because people I think after No Way Home, people were there was a sentiment where it's like, well, see, these movies were always good, and it's like, no, the first one is fine, the second one is Batman and Robin levels are terrible, and No Way Home just reminded you that Andrew Garfield was really good at this character who was giving really mediocre to bad material.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's absolutely true. 100%. Yep.
Also, I mean, you can also tell that they're getting ready to set up a lot more, because the way this movie starts off, where you have child Peter, which I think is amusing. I mean, he's playing hide and seek with his parents, which reminded me of other movies we watched. And I just thought it was just funny too, because it's he's playing hide and seek, and all of a sudden he finds his broken office. And I also want to know, where the hell are they living? I mean, because they can't be in New York, right? If they're in New York, they're living in a fucking mansion, it looked like, in New York style.
I think Queens?
Because isn't that...
As I think you see the bridge, yeah? When they're leaving? I don't know New York geography. I've never been to the United States.
Fair. It's I read it as Queens as well. In Queens, but you could have a larger home like that. Kind of odd, but you could, yeah.
It's not out million?
Of the
20 million.
Have some obscene amount of.
Okay. I always because I know you lived in New York, Bill. So whenever I watch anything with New York, I'm like, I always think, Bill can tell me how much that was, or roughly. What do you think?
What was interesting about this too? It didn't feel very New Yorky. It didn't have a lot of the flavor of New York. Unlike the newer Spider-Man movies, where it's steeped in that. He's in Queens, he's going to bodegas, he's in it. All of that is just rich. And even Spider-Verse is just rich with New York. And this film, it just felt like setting because there's so much that's in a high school, and it's gonna be a high school in Kansas. It didn't have a feel of New York, except at least for the very end, which we will laugh about hopefully at length.
It was probably filmed in Georgia, pretending to be New York.
Yeah, exactly. They're filmed in Georgia, like everything is, and so that was one of the things I kind of was missing as well. Again, as someone who lived in New York for 4 years, it was I kind of missed that. It's like, oh man, there's iconography, but again, even the main buildings, like the Oscorp building, is a pretend building. It's like, put them in the Chrysler building or something. I don't know, give it a little flavor.
That would work.
With the whole New York thing too, I think it's really funny. This is the last Spider-Man, technically anything, I want to say, where he goes to a normal high school, because a lot of the TV shows and even the newer Spider-Man, they're really hell-bent on being this weird thing where it's like, oh no, Peter goes to a school for gifted youngsters who are really into science, which makes sense. But it's just really weird that, like, once Spider-Man kind of shifted over to Disney, like everything from the cartoons to the comics to the movies and the TV shows all have him going to just like, oh, he goes to the science school for gifted youngsters.
Well, I mean, Spectacular Spider-Man came out in 2008, and I think he was in... Well, yeah, it was kind of a normal school, but I think it was like MQ because it was like Manhattan Magnet something.
Yeah, a magnet school is usually like a higher end kind of...
Yeah. So it was kind of something they started like with that, because like this kind of has like a little bit of vibes of that show.
I mean, maybe it's like an aspirational thing where they want like kids to watch it and realize, oh, this character I love goes to this really cool science school. Maybe I should pursue, I don't know, force diagrams or whatever it is that people do in science. Maybe, I don't know, or they just need an explanation to why he is so adept and can build web shooters in his room with parts acquired by reasons, I guess. The prop people put those parts in front of him and he built those web shooters. So maybe that's a reason to have that where he can like make these things and design things. So yeah. I liked in Spider-Verse where they actually get into like charter school politics, very low key. I love that. I can't watch any other Spider-Man movie without thinking of that and think, yeah, but they did the best.
That's a thing from the Miles Morales comic too. Like in the first run, it's like he won a lottery to get into that school.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Brought up into
real thing.
And he was like, I don't want to go here. Like I just want to go to like my regular ass high school.
Your parents put you in for the lottery, and that really affects the course of your entire life. It's where you go. Yeah, it's crazy. The politics behind that.
With the bring up of Miles Morales, they were setting up Miles Morales for this series, I firmly believe, because that 00 symbol you see very, very thoroughly throughout this movie is supposed to be on his spider. It's set up the way in the Ultimate series, and I believe the spider that bites Miles has a 13 on it.
Oh, because
I can't remember the number because it's in the game too.
Because in the very intro is when you have the whole thing of him seeing the 00 for the first time, that his father was working on some project, and then he gets dropped off. So okay, I didn't realize that was something to do with Miles. Also, I don't know much about Miles other than Spider-Verse.
That's like a pretty good introduction. Like that, it's not a 1-for-1, but it's the gist of his origin of like there's another spider, it bites him. He like Peter Parker is Miles's Uncle Ben. Where it's just like, I could have saved him if I just would have done something, which is kind of ruined in the comics now because they like killed the universe that Miles is in and just dumped him into our universe and like brought his parents back to life.
You're not wrong, unfortunately. I read that comic. I know what you're talking about.
They really don't know what to do with that character outside of the excellent PS4-5 game.
I mean, that would have been cool. I mean, it makes sense that they were trying to set up a lot more with this that we don't see, unfortunately, because all we get is just that little scene with, and then I mean, it comes up a lot more the 00 in this movie, but they don't do anything else with it. I mean, it's just as a plot point. Go, oh, he's got the 00 on his paperwork that I stole from him should be thrown out of this building immediately. But hey,
in the year this movie came out rather, and it's interesting to kind of look at it in the era that it came out because it's like a weird amalgamation of. We're trying to be like the serious Christopher Nolan style storytelling, but at the same time, like Marvel is ramping up this like universe, so we have to like pepper in like, oh, here's some future things that have happened, even like the pointless post-credit scene, and they really doubled down with that on the second one.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. Well, I do want to mention, like, when you first see him in high school, though, like the way that one, I was laughing because he's a creeper, so that made me laugh. I had to put that in my
totally.
notes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
Weirdo with a camera. Please stop.
And he starts taking pictures like Gwen. I'm just like, this wouldn't fly in 2022. Like,
no, it certainly wouldn't.
he's just sitting there being a creeper, just taking pictures of her with a freaking, regular like camera. Like, people are gonna know what you're doing, buddy. Like, what? Why?
It's like they're trying to do the beats from the Raimi movie, but those were like kind of creepy. But there was something about just how Sam Raimi built his universe where you're kind of like uncomfortable, but you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of cute, but
it's
not
also a
really.
different time.
Yeah.
True.
I mean,
Very true.
even in 2012, I feel like people were more like acknowledging things that you shouldn't be doing, and this is one of them. I don't know. It was just weird. I mean, I just thought it was funny. I mean, I do like that little joke where this random girl comes up to him and she's like, "Hey, I see you take pictures," and he's like, "Yeah. How about this day you take pictures?" And he's like, "Yeah," and then she's like, "Oh, my boyfriend's car," and he's like, "No."
No,
I like
no. Yeah, it was cute. I think a lot of my issue with Andrew Garfield in this movie is his constant sheepishness. He's constantly oh no, he's constantly doing that, and I understand that's part of the character because when you're 17 and kind of shy, that's what you do when I guess like a pretty girl or somebody who you're attracted to is going, "Hi, how are you?" But it's just for some reason rubbed me the wrong way, and maybe it's just because I'm an adult and I'm like, that's not the way you do this. Please stop. Please feel good about yourself.
When you're 25, pretending to be a 17-year-old.
Yeah, I guess he's like channeling how he was when he was 17 and thinking, I guess people didn't like me. Andrew Garfield, I guarantee you were pretty well liked in high school. I highly doubt you were one of the maligned, band kids. No offense to band kids. I was a band kid. But, it's, I highly doubt you were getting the snot beat out of you by Flash. Probably not the beater, but, all this is fine, though. This is all good set dressing. This is all establishing character. Peter Parker, he's a good guy. He's willing to take a beating for somebody else. He's willing to stand up for what's right, which is the inherent nature of Spider-Man without the web shooters and everything else.
It's a good little scene too.
Yeah, it's cool. And he's getting, Flash, of course, is this stereotypical bully, big jock bully. Fine. I don't mind this being painted in broad strokes. You want to get to the spidering, which it doesn't happen till like an hour in do we get any real spidering.
I also like this version of Flash. I do want to say that I do not like Flash.
Yeah, I agree.
I
like the turn he takes too. I think I like the turn he takes, where Flash is just this one-noted, basically a walking punchline. So,
well, that's
not
like
as bad as I wouldn't want to fight me neither. It's not like that.
I wouldn't want to fight BDR from Magic Mike either. But what I really hate about like this movie is that and around this era, like Flash Thompson was Venom, and it was a really great series. And like given how this character, like how they handle Flash in this, I could have seen him rather. Like in the sequel being like, well, I'm inspired by Spider-Man and like I'm going to go to war, which is what kind of happens in the comics. He's like, I want to be a hero like Spider-Man. And he loses his legs and gets the Venom symbiote and gets to be a hero. Like I could have saw them doing that with that character. But then in the second one, it's just like, no, he's gone. Like I think he might be in the background somewhere in like the high school graduation scene. But like, yeah, I really like how his Herc is handled in this.
He was better than I thought it would be. Because I remember him being an idiot, but like just the way they did it in this beginning stuff, and like as the turn in the movie goes on, I thought it was good too. Like I like that. I like that you see him wearing a Spider-Man shirt later, and being like, oh, Spider-Man's pretty cool.
Yeah, his turn is really good. That's a bit of a highlight for me.
And I also like the way like Gwen is in this, like especially when you first see Gwen, she comes up to him to break up the fight, and she's like, yeah, we got tutoring later. Like she makes it seem like she's gonna come over and hang out with him, but it's just she's gonna tutor him. And I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was neat because she's clearly into him, which is cool, right? It kind of circumvents.
It'd be a lot creepier what he was doing.
Well, yeah, so a lot creepier. Sure. No. That's still creepy.
It's just like that.
Yeah.
That line between someone being, the way that you feel about the person is what depends on them being even though what he's doing is kind of stalkerish, taking pictures of her without her permission. But
and then they kind of do it later on because there's a joke where Peter's in his room and he has a picture of Gwen on his computer, which is something Uncle Ben brings up later.
Yeah.
And you think it would be that picture, but it's so much better because it's just okay, I had to take a picture of a yearbook photo and I just kind of positioned it so it's her section, and that's so much better than just
creeper photos.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't go with creeper photos, that he just had a yearbook picture that he took or something of that nature. It was so much better.
There's a weird thing about Andrew Garfield in this movie because he's not very much a typical nerd, and a lot of people like to say that Tobey Maguire makes a good Peter Parker, but Andrew Garfield makes a better Spider-Man.
That's interesting.
It's just a nerd I think the nerd is not the stereotypical pocket protector glasses. I think it's more of the on the fringes and unable to relate, which I think he does well. It's just because I think if you had that in this movie, it would just be a cartoon, which is kind of what the sequel is.
Yeah.
If he was just there and he's how's it going, Gwen, or whatever, and you just kind of have that 60s Spider-Man, which is great for that era, but here it's just I lived in this really small town of 2,000 people, and I had a corn shirt in grade 9, and people thought I worshiped the devil. So this is kind of the fringes that I'm getting.
Sure.
So I kind of understood what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. And again, I just want to just kind of nail down the fact that again, both of these actors are doing really good work, and they're at the top of their game in this movie. Andrew Garfield's coming off of The Social Network, which was, of course, a celebrated movie, and he's fantastic in it. And I think he's fantastic in it. Whatever you feel about, Jesse Eisenberg is up to your opinion. I think it's a very good movie. And Emma Stone is coming off of Easy A, which is another one that's really great. So, she's doing Birdman in a few years. These are actors and actresses who are just at the top of their game, and they're doing great work. They really are.
No, I was just thinking about even in the beginning when you first see Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield talking in class. I like where she's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "You want to know you don't know my name?" So it's I know your name. I want to know if you know your name. I like the little interaction with each other. I love the way they interact with each other in this movie. I just really I forgot how much I enjoyed. They really make. I mean, it's also sad that anyone Spider-Man, even this movie came out, Gwen's not going to make it,
right?
So because where it goes eventually. I feel I knew they were going to kill Gwen at some point.
Well, that was the second one, right?
Yeah.
There's obviously not the first one. I just watched it 2 days ago. What a silly goose I am. I will soften my stance on their interactions by this. I like the way Gwen reacts to Peter. I don't like the way he reacts back. And I think because she is doing really good work. His again all shucks guffawing, nervousness is, I don't know, just off-putting to me. I mean, because again, I'm a 40-year-old man, and I think back to it too, I guess, but I don't know. I
was a super awkward high schooler teenager when it came to women or girls or however you want to put it. I was that guy.
Yeah, me too. I totally get it.
So I wasn't popular. I had people thought I remember people thought I was gay for the longest time because I hung out with my one friend all the time. I found it amusing later. I was like, this is funny. Because I didn't talk to women. I was terrified I was really nervous to talk to women, so I just didn't talk to women. So it was just a different time. High school is just weird. High school sucks.
High school sucks. I mean, it's just a disaster. I mean, I think when I was in high school, I was again a band kid, and I was in drumline, so there was a whole different social strata there. So I was all about music and band, and I went the other direction. I was over the top, make people laugh and make people giggle and such. So the jocks and such never really messed with me because I can make them laugh. And I was just a ham for attention. Podcaster. It worked out. And so I don't know. I guess I never had that thing. I just didn't care about girls and such. That was never really in my orbit.
Oh, I did.
I didn't. I just didn't. I don't know.
I was just too shy for a long time. And then the first girl I met was online. So I got nothing. That makes sense to why because again, it is the way that he talks, especially early in this movie, is very it takes him a while to really get his confidence. Like, I think that also was to kind of build up how much when he does get bit by the spider a little bit later and how that changes everything by him having the interaction and getting the power is like you see his confidence grow with the way he talks to Gwen Stacy, where it's so bad at first and he's so nervous, but as he becomes, starts to become Spider-Man, he's way better at it. So that could be kind of what they were going for too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I was just kind of thinking about that. There's a lot of that in the.
You know who has a really good relationship dynamic in this movie? Uncle Ben and Aunt May.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So good. They're both doing good work too. Martin Sheen and Sally Fields. Oh, they're so good. Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the movie.
I don't know if it's the second one, but I remember Sally Field, like, in hindsight, she was like, man, I hated working on these things.
The second one.
Nice.
Yeah, she was like, I was so miserable. Like,
I don't even know what's going on.
They work good together. Like, I do agree they had good chemistry. Like, I mean, you get a decent amount of Uncle Ben, I feel. You get enough Uncle Ben in this. I mean, anyone who knows Spider-Man, like, you know where this is going.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's a good moral compass and just enough. He's just enough in there to kind of steer. Yeah, it could be that moral compass. And also that warning light for Peter, being genuinely concerned, like, what's going on? Like, you've done a 180, coming home late, face battered constantly, forgetting the eggs, like all that stuff is someone as a father figure trying to keep a teenager on kind of like the right path when teenagers want to do anything other than like what you say. So
yeah.
And I really like the moment where he's just like he's in his room and they have a little conversation. He's like, yeah, like, you're a pretty cool dad. And I was like, oh, you are. This is so cute.
Well, I mean, plus they put a lot of stuff with like when he's finding out about his dad, like when you finding the briefcase, and like they do a lot of that little like having him be like, you're not my real dad type thing, and him dealing with what happened with his parents, how they're dead and they're missing, and how they were doing experiments and stuff. Like they get into that a little bit in this, but I thought it worked well too, like them setting up a much bigger story.
Mm-hmm.
I do got to say, like, him sneaking into Oscorp. Like, I find that funny. I'm pretty sure there would have been pictures on those intern IDs.
Yeah.
Just pick your name. Well, find your name. Well, I'll be Johnson today. They'll never know.
Boy, every time I watch this movie, because I mean, the whole like kind of theme of the movie is like finding yourself, and then he goes to the receptionist, and it's like, oh, go find yourself, and then she has the line where she's like, are you having trouble finding yourself? And I was like, oh my God, like this can be more on the nose if they wanted it to be. Like,
it was so on the nose, like the cartilage broke. That is how on the nose that thing was. Yeah, totally agree.
They bring that a lot up throughout this entire movie too. Of the who do you know who you are? Like, you're supposed to know who you are.
I guess it was self-discovery kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I never really thought about that, but I can really see that being a theme in this movie. I didn't put it together, but yeah. I mean, that's kind of what this movie's about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just thought it was just so funny how he sneaks in and, he just grabs somebody, and then you see the other guy be like, I'm Ricardo. I'm like, I'm him. Like, and they just take him out. Like, you think they would at least like maybe try to figure it out, not just cart him out the door?
Yeah, every time I see that, it haunts me because I'm just thinking like, man, he really ruined that kid's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. The guy had an internship and you just took the guy and we got kicked out of the building. Now he probably can't even work there anymore.
This is also my weirdness coming out. I really, really like Andrew Garfield in glasses.
He looks.
Yeah, I dig that.
Glasses.
But aren't those his dad's glasses? Oh,
yes.
Right. They do establish because he does take his contacts out. So they established that like him and his dad have the same prescription at the same age or something.
I was thinking the same thing because I think all four of us wear glasses. I'm like, that's not how glasses work, buddy.
Well, you can take the lenses out. It'd be weird, but you could totally be like, these are my dad's glasses. Can you guys cut me out lenses that fit into them? And some nice optometrist was like, oh yeah, I'll totally do that for you.
Oh, they'll do it. Yeah, you can bring your frames in and I've done it with old frames, got like sunglasses put in, like just sunglass lenses. Yeah, you can, it's actually a thing you can just do. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Don't throw away old frames if your eyes deteriorate as we get older and older, marching towards our demise. Hold on to them. You can just use those frames and continue. Yeah.
No, I get new frames. I break my frames though after a while.
Same. That's why.
Like I like these glasses that I'm wearing right now on my head. The screw came out, and I had to go get a new screw and put it back together. So
I'll tell you a very, very, very quick story, as quick as I can possibly tell it. I'm not good at that. I had these like glasses with like these sunglasses doing that exact thing, got like lenses put in, and I put them in like the the glasses compartment in like the roof of the car, 'cause that's when I generally need them. I kind of forgot about them for a year and a half. One day I pop it open and they had melted in the Texas heat. Like they literally had melted into like this weird conflagration. It was all bent. It's like, oh man, that's Texas for you. So
Yeah, remind me never to live in Texas. More and more reasons why.
no, it's like there's a wide,
I hate the heat.
wide array.
I hate the heat.
Just
Like I want to go to Alaska because it's cold, but my wife is not going to be going with me if I go to Alaska, so that's not happening. But so I just hate heat. I'm a cold guy. I need to be cold.
Mike Albertin broadcasting here from Juneau, Alaska.
Hey, my job's remote now. I'm like, hey, I'll just go work in Alaska.
It's okay, Mike. I too also wish to move to Alaska, but my husband says the vampires will get us, so that's no go.
No, that'll happen. You gotta dodge those guys.
3 days a night.
So he meets Connors, right? Is that's kind of we're at this point where I really found it very interesting and not quite realistic that Gwen Stacy just happens to be like the lead intern. Is that what she says?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lead intern that's going to lead 25 kids her age throughout this laboratory and have the power to remove them. Oh no!
Hey, it's only a very secured facility working on the T-virus or something of that nature. Hey, I'm sure there's some statue somewhere in the building to get into the special facility. You got to have the jewels. Okay.
I'm sure. That one really struck me as like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you probably could have done this without Gwen Stacy. I don't think you needed that character in this, but we hadn't seen her in a while, I guess. But
There's
very
a lot
movie thing.
There's a lot of things in this movie where it seems like we're going to put someone here to have like a payoff later, but it's really stretching it. Like when Peter gets into the lab and they're just walking around, he's like, oh, here's everything. And it's like, oh, there's a vaccine machine. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's going to be in the finale. Like you just, like the only reason why you're pointing this out is because it's going to play a role in the finale. And boy, what a time when you're watching this movie and it's like, why would anyone want to opt out of a vaccine? I'm like, oh, wow.
Connor is played by, I'm not going to pronounce this name right, Rhys Ifans. Is that good? Rhys Ifans, perhaps?
Most people know him as like a tertiary character from Notting Hill.
Yes, Notting Hill. It's very funny. He was in a Welsh rock band called Peth and the Super Furry Animals. So take that with you today as you just go about your day. There's a band out there called Peth and the Super Funny Animals. I know this guy from Elementary, the Sherlock Holmes-ish. Not Sherlock Holmes. It's the TV series. They had like 6 or 7 seasons. He plays Mycroft Holmes, which is Sherlock's brother. He's really, really good in it. And Elementary is my wife and I's. It's our comfort show. If we're at home and like nothing to watch, I'll throw on Elementary. All right, fine. So we've probably seen them all. Oh yeah, it's on Hulu.
Okay, I might have to start that. I need a new show.
It's good. I'm a big fan. So it takes a really interesting take on the classic Sherlock Holmes Watson character. Lucy Liu playing Watson, which is really good. And it's
me and Tiffany a new show.
Yeah, and I think Tommy Lee Miller, is that right? The guy who from Hackers, the main hacker in Hackers, he plays Sherlock and he's awesome. So we're fans. It's our cheesy thing. That and Star Trek Discovery, because that's cheesy and dumb and fun. And why not? Who cares? It's not Star Trek. It's just Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I do like Connors. I like Connors in this. I was happy that they did the Lizard as the villain, because I mean, well, again, I know comics. I knew who it was immediately, but I'm glad that I think he's a good villain for this, to do something different. And like, it was a good way to give that relationship with Peter. But like, I mean, again, one thing I thought, so I think it's funny, like he says like, oh, the decay theory, or he says something, the guy's like, you're right. And just kind of looks at him like, what the fuck is up with this intern that, snuck in my building with the wrong name that I'll find out later. And like when he goes, okay, I do have a bone to pick. Like he gets in the secured lab with the spiders way too damn easy, because he just watched the guy put in the code and then puts in the same code and gets it. So, yeah, again, movie's got a movie, as we've said 100 times. Yeah, I know, but like you think they would have had more security. Like, okay, you got to swipe your badge, then put in your code, not just put in a code. Like that doesn't seem correct to me.
It's almost as if we shouldn't have this highly specific, wonky ass, like Angry Birds touch screen to get into our facility where you can obviously see the man put it in, as opposed to where if you saw him put in a number, it'd be really hard to guess because it was done really quickly.
Or if the guy had just kind of given it like a poker hand and like hit it as he was making his little 3DS swipe in crap, what is it? Dawn of Sorrow, Castlevania, as he was doing that thing. If as he was doing his stylus swipe, just kind of cover it a little bit. Movie over. Done. Go home. 30 minutes. Yay. But no, he just does it in the open, casual glance over his shoulder. And yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
But again, it's a movie thing.
But like, do you think there'd be alarms or something? Like, he just goes in the spider thing. And why would he go in the spider thing? Like, if I see a bunch of spiders, I ain't going to go in there.
Well,
No.
it's because he runs into him and he drops the briefcase and has the is it the Ouroboros? No.
No, just
the below symbol. So like
Yeah.
he follows him and he's just like kind of cagily looking around. So it's like, oh, if that guy knows something, that's probably in here. And then there was just like something that I do like about this movie is that they kind of introduce things without belaboring them too much. Like when Peter Parker or when Peter's at his house and he just has like the little homemade door unlock machine. It's just like, oh, he's good with gadgets without having like a stupid exposition thing being like, hey, Peter, you're really good at science.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like in that room, it's just like, oh, here's the Oscorp like tensile cable. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of where the web shooters are going to come later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
They do a good
Oh,
job
okay.
of showing that.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say too. He also prove it whenever he's downstairs with Uncle Ben. He's the one that fixes whatever's pumping the water out of the
Mhm.
Yeah.
basement.
It's very efficient. Like, you're right. There's not a lot of useless exposition here. And I think I would credit that to the director and his music video, work and his TV work, because you have to be efficient. Like if you're telling music video stories, you ain't got time to like exposit lots of stuff. So yeah, you're 100% right. He's really adept at showing these things naturally through just the actions of the character. Yeah, I agree.
I rewatched this movie and I think I decided I have one major issue that I have with this movie.
What's that?
So comparing it to the original Spider-Man, whenever Peter gets bit, he gets bit by a very specific spider. And that's really kind of is what the crux of most of the Spider-Man series is. Because kind of like in the Ultimates and the other series too, at some point Osborn knows that this spider bit Spider-Man. He doesn't know who Spider-Man is, but he knows that's how he got his powers. And the reason it being is he can't replicate the same spider that bit Spider-Man. And so that's why kind of like that's where Miles Morales comes in and why he has different powers, because he was trying to make a better spider, but he really couldn't do it. But in this, you have a room full of probably the exact same spider. So what keeps how many people probably work on this project? Like 30 people from becoming Spider-Man.
Well, that's something they answer in a really stupid way in the sequel, which, I mean, oh boy, because in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he finds his dad's magic subway token, which he puts in the subway, and then his magic subway lab comes up, and he has a QuickTime video recorded from 2002 that still works, that the spiders are specifically genetically encoded to like his DNA, so he's the only one who can become Spider-Man.
That's not a real thing. You made that
That's
up.
not real.
That is
No.
what happens in the sequel.
I have
What
to
is
rewatch.
going on?
I think it's been a while, which is like kind of contradictory to like when you think of like Into the Spider-Verse, where the whole theme is like anyone can wear the mask, anyone can be Spider-Man. But in this universe, it's literally Peter Parker is the only one who can be Spider.
Which is entirely counteractive to the point of the lab, which is to give everybody the opportunity to regenerate limbs and heal themselves through animal things. That is by far the stupidest thing I will hear today.
I think he is right, though. I think that is in the sequel.
I can't even believe it. And was the video playing like on Real Player? Is that what we were using, or QuickTime?
Well, I mean, just watch it. Just like go on YouTube anywhere, find the opening to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and you can see why you can check out near immediately.
It's just I can't handle the cringe. I don't think I love a good cringe. I don't know if I need that today. Maybe tomorrow. But anyway, that's really good
And then,
and bad to know.
him getting bit by the spider, like it doesn't even. I don't think it even happens there. I think it's like the spider gets on him and he leaves that lab, and then the spider bites him at some random point. And
Yeah,
he just
because Gwen's like, "Give me the badge," and then like it bites him. But then it's weird because later on, like the spider bites him, but the web is attached to his neck, and the spider is dangling from it, which I found weird.
That's not how that
Not
works.
that I know a lot about spiders.
I know enough that they don't bite you and infect you with put a web inside you and then hang off.
Yeah.
That's not the web. The web comes out of their ass. They bite you with their mouth, and unless people don't know how anatomy works, even with bugs, like it's not the same. That's not how that works. They don't bite you and infect you with a web. Like
No.
Don't. Okay.
Webs don't come out of their faces. That's not how that works. By the way, when he's doing his searching around on the computer, was he on Bing?
Yes.
Like early ass Bing. Okay, I didn't miss that. All right, I didn't have a slight seizure and see Bing instead of, which was always cute. I like seeing old technology and those old phones too, like the old touchscreens, like those really small faux touchscreens.
Wow. That's what I love about watching a Sony production, because you can just see everyone has an Ericsson phone and everyone has a Vile laptop. And in like Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's like a big ad for Blu-ray discs somewhere in the background.
And it never stops. In Spider-Verse, Miles Morales opens up the show wearing giant Sony headphones. And I just like, yep, you guys are shameless. No qualms about that. So I had a good giggle at that, and I always laughed when I saw those oldie time cell phones. It's like, that's cute.
Yeah, whenever it's like super obvious too, because it's in the shot the whole time. Whenever Dr. Connors gives his whole "everyone will be lizard" speech, it's on a Sony computer laptop.
It's on a bio. Oh, it's so funny.
I mean, I get it, but
I mean, listen, you know what? You got a brand.
Yeah.
You know what?
We're making your
Corporations got
movie.
corporations got a corporation. So just do what you gotta do.
So what did you think? We get to the next part where he got bit by the spider. He's on the subway and he's napping on the subway. I don't know enough about New York, but that seemed like a bad idea to probably nap on a subway.
I've seen people do it. It's not a good idea. I mean, I've seen people, if it's a not a very crowded train late at night, kind of catching a Z, especially if it's a long ride. And if he's going back to Queens, that's be a 20-minute ride from wherever he's at. And so that looks like he was like Midtown-ish. So yeah, it's like a 20-minute subway ride. So I could see him catching a Z. That's not too outside the realm.
And
they
don't establish like in the first Spider, in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, like it's kind of like rewriting his genetics. So maybe he's not like asleep. He just like is changing. I don't know if there's any visual cues to signify that here though.
No, just him freaking out, and all of a sudden, as my wife put it, how does he know kung fu? Or not, she didn't say kung fu, but she's like, how does he know how to do this stuff? I'm like, he jacked in the Matrix and got kung fu uploaded to him. That's what I said to her. She'd never seen Matrix, so she didn't understand.
It's all very like reactionary. It's not very elegant. It's kind of just like his spider sense kind of just kicking in, and just like he's just kicks the guys and things like that. So my thing is like, is it that easy to get a beer on a New York subway?
Was it a beer? I guess it was a beer. I mean, no, you shouldn't. I mean, there's nobody stopping you there on your way in. So I guess you could if you were just, brown bagging. I mean, when I played hockey in the in New York, we were brown bagging constantly, and the cops were really cool about it. So yeah, I guess you could. I mean, I wouldn't walk around with like a beer bottle just flailing about like, hey, and put it on his nose.
Yeah, so he puts it on his head and he gets up and knocks it on the girl, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to smell like beer all day now."
Yeah, that's right. She does say that. You're right. Yeah, I get late at night. You probably could. No one's going to bother you. There's nothing stopping you. So
okay, but also like they freak out. Like they get so pissed that he spills beer on this girl, and then he takes off her shirt by accident. Like they get so mad at him. It's like, you guys put the beer on his head. Like you started this whole thing. And they freak out, and he beat the shit out of them by accident. And it's just like, and this is where you get to see the spider sense, or the Peter tingle, as it's unfortunately called in other movies. But I like the spider sense. I really like him just reacting and doing stupid shit and being stuck to everything and just beating the shit out of these idiots by accident. I really, really like this. Like I thought it was just so good. Yeah,
it's one of my favorite tropes of Spider-Man in every movie is Peter Parker not knowing what to do with his powers, not understanding how they work, and just kind of the comedy that comes from, him just not knowing what he's doing. And Blair is 100% right. All of his fighting is just self-defense, just really pushing people out the way and ripping a woman's blouse off in a very comic book kind of way, which was very silly. Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. It was really neat. And clinging to the ceiling and just again trying to figure this thing out as he's defending himself from these goons bothering him. I was taking his nap.
It was just so stupid. It's like, why are you getting mad that the guy you're trying to fuck with started fucking with you back? Like, come on now. Like, maybe you should have not fucked with him. Like, just let him sleep.
You could probably explain it. He had some beers in him, probably feeling himself, and thought he would take on this kid. I've
been drunk. I've been high, and I've never done dumb shit. I just play video games, but maybe that's just, I'm different.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of dumb people.
Well, not drunk.
Really?
I've never done anything drunk, but fall asleep.
Oh,
when I get really drunk,
I could tell you stories of things I've done drunk. Not a lot of them really not good. So, hey, yeah, your brain shuts off a little bit when you've had, 2, 3, or 10. So that's how that works.
I just get tired.
Yeah.
Like I was doing shots of whiskey this week, and I just wanted to go to sleep, which I did. So. And watch
I will say this. I was never an angry drunk at all. I was a very jovial drunk, but then I would just do stupid things whilst being a jovial drunk. So
okay. And then I do like these little scenes, like when you have him, when he gets back to the house and he takes all the food, he takes the frozen macaroni and cheese and he's like, I'm hungry. And then the little meatloaf joke, like I like all that. I think that added good substance for the characters. And
yeah,
again, this could just be a regular teenager. I mean, you're just hungry as hell because your body's growing.
See, they think he's high, and full offense, I've also done that when I was high, to the fact to where I got in trouble because my grandparents found that I had eaten half a block of cheese. Now you may ask, what do you mean you ate half a block of cheese? Like you snapped it in half? No, there were my actual teeth marks in the block of cheese that I threw back into the fridge.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you said you took a knife, cut it in half, cut them up for yourself, got some Wheat Thins. I have a box of Wheat Thins next to me, by the way, completely unrelated. I was like, Wheat Thins. Look at them, empty. Thanks, hon. Thanks, James. Empty Wheat Thins. Just thanks for that. So but you just took facefuls of cheese. That's amazing. I love that story.
So I know he is out of it, but he takes the macaroni and cheese, but he doesn't microwave it. He just brings it upstairs.
Yeah,
eventually it'll defrost, right? It'll taste terrible, but it'll defrost.
Who freezes macaroni and cheese?
It was a TV dinner, I think.
Oh,
yeah, it was a Stouffer's macaroni.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I kind of want one now tonight.
Go for some meatloaf.
I can't. I don't like meatloaf.
Actually, my this is why are we talking about this? My wife's got all the makings for her meatloaf in the fridge. I hope she does it tonight. Her meatloaf's legit. She does like 3 types of meat. I don't know. It's awesome.
My wife doesn't make meatloaf. I don't make meatloaf. My mother used to, and it was okay, but I've just never been a big fan of meatloaf.
My mom. Oh, my poor mom. Her meatloaf was not good.
I do like that line. He's like, he must be, something must be wrong. He's eating your meatloaf. She's like, you don't like he's like, nobody likes your meatloaf. He's like, but I've been making it for you for 37 years.
such an old couple relation. I love that little beat. It was great.
Oh, and then watching him the next morning, like breaking the bathroom, I thought that was hilarious.
The alarm clock gets me every time when he
just smacks it, just breaks it. That was fucking hilarious. Like, I thought it was a good introduction to his powers, where he's trying to figure out that he has powers and just breaking everything. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, like I love when he's just on the computer and he's like Googling spider bites and you just see like the random letters and it just like kind of looks at his fingers and then it's just like all the keyboards or all the keys are on it.
They do a good, I mean, I like all that. I like that his powers, like he can stick to it. It's just part of him. Like they do a very good job in this movie of showing that. And I was very impressed by that. I thought that was good. And I'm also glad that his web shooters don't just come out of his wrist. He makes his web shooters. I like that a lot too. That doesn't happen yet, but I like that fact. I don't understand how he's able to just order parts online and make it, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like it's either a fever dream or I think it's a cut scene that I've seen before, but there's like a weird thing where it's describing like, oh yeah, we can use like the webbing that they're making in Oscorp and you can like pull a whole airplane with it. And it's just really weird to see him. He's like, oh yeah, I'll just go to the Oscorp website and just buy me a case of this shit and they won't ask me any questions. Yeah,
that's the part that I don't like, because I think it's supposed to be like, I think in the comics he builds it, he makes it chemical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that he built his shooters, but the fact that he bought this tinsel, I kind of like, but yeah, whatever. It's whatever. It's because Oscorp had to play a big part in this movie too, because they were setting up for those big sequels we never got.
Yep.
And then like this is where you have him at the school again, where you have him with Flash. I think this is also a good scene. I mean, I think this also really shows him how much he's growing as a person. Like how, or not, maybe not growing person is the right word, but how much more confident he is now that he has the spider powers. Like you can see the confidence just changing him, where he's just fucking with Flash and hiding the ball from him, and then breaks the frickin', basketball net and everything, and then they get all mad at him for breaking it.
Yeah, they have the show like the irresponsible like cockiness where it's just like, well, I can do whatever I want now. Like I don't have to take like these punches anymore, take these licks.
I think it's good though, but it also kind of like, it's them showing with great power comes great responsibility without saying that line again and without having those same moments. Like they kind of are trying to show that. And I like this better, I think, than him fighting Macho Man Randy Savage. I like this idea.
I don't know. That's a really good fight.
It's a good movie.
Chef's kiss. R.I.P. Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah.
I really like all that.
I do think it's kind of silly that if they get mad because it's like you destroyed like a basketball hoop, which tends to happen, and you could probably blame it on like weird, gross teenage hormones that he did it. But like I feel like you probably could have gotten the same effect if you had it to where it's like, Peter, whenever you like because he pushes Flash to get to the fucking basketball hoop. It would have made maybe a little more sense if it was like, oh, when you push Flash, you completely dislocate his fucking shoulder. And that probably would have had a little more weight.
Yeah, he humiliated the boy. He humiliated him.
There's weird escalation in this movie where it's like, I just don't quite buy it. And we're going to get it when they do the, because when I rewatched it, kind of the Uncle Ben moment where I was like, I don't buy this, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And I think I think it's interesting with this Flash moment in the basketball court where it's showing him overcorrecting, right? Like you guys said, he's got these new powers. He doesn't have to take this shit anymore. He just can, he doesn't have to take it anymore. So now he's just going to be a mean jerk. He's going to become Flash. Like that's kind of the trajectory he's on. Because yes, you could probably beat him in basketball and show him up in front of his friends, show him up in front of the basketball team. But you have to humiliate him. And that's kind of where Uncle Ben steps in and says, oh, do you feel good about that, right? Do you feel good about yourself having to humiliate a kid? Like, did that work for you? Because that's not who you are. So it's very interesting. I liked it. It was fun to watch this jerk get, beat at his own game by the kid that he was bullying. But there's also a sense of, he's really pulling the screws into him. I don't know if this is kind of the right spot for him. So it was really great. Very well done. I liked it.
And that's when you have the whole scene. I know that girl. He got you under his computer.
So good. I love that. That's such a dad thing too.
It is.
I have kids. My son is 6 and my daughter is 1.5 or so. And I can't wait to humiliate them with some sort of dumb dad joke in front of their friends. They roll their eyes and go, "Dad," and I will laugh hysterically in my own brain. I cannot wait. That is a priceless dad thing that I am looking forward to. That way, in like 20 years after, like, remember when I called you Sweetie Pumpkin in front of your, yeah, Dad, that was the worst, and you can have that moment. I cannot wait.
This is also when he asked Gwen out. I like the way that this goes too. Like he's asking her out, and he's kind of bumbling, like they don't actually say it. He's like, like I like all that. I thought that was. I'm thinking to myself, maybe you should ask for her number. But either way, I mean that's just me being me. But I thought it was just it was so cute, and it was just. I just really love the way both of them are in this movie. I'm gonna say that over and over again. I love their chemistry.
I'll agree.
I love the way they.
I'll back you up on that.
Same here.
I also really like Emma Stone, so that helps. And Andrew Garfield.
Intolerable blathering. I can't watch these two mushmouth mumble at each other like it's a mumblecore film. I don't know. I totally respect it. You're probably right. You guys are probably on the right side of this. But for me, it's hard to watch, and I don't want to watch it. And that's just a personal thing. That's not an objective criticism. That's just me not wanting to watch a 27-year-old and a 22-year-old babble like they're 17. And
I mean, he is a little old for this. But
I love the Raimi movies, but like something that I mean, there's very few things I'll give these movies above those. And one thing is that, like, Mary Jane is such a flat character. Like, Kirsten Dunst has nothing to work with other than, like, scream.
Yeah.
And Emma Stone is, like, such a better, well-written character.
I think they finally broke the mold with the new trilogy between Zendaya and Tom Holland, which also has like a reverse of this too, because you have the weird thing where you're looking at Andrew Garfield and you're like, oh, that dude's totally like 25, 27. Because there's times where I'm watching this movie and he has a kind of a blockhead, and then you watch like and then you watch the Tom Holland movies and it's like, wait, that dude's like 30? Yeah, Tom Holland's like 30. He's just a baby face guy. Like,
yeah, he has like the Dane DeHaan disease where he's like a grown man who looks like a child. and that's the thing about like, because like the Uncharted movie came out earlier this year, and they kind of bring it up in the pitch meeting where it's like they have a flashback to him being 10, and then they flash forward to him being like in a bar, and it's just like, oh no, these people are only like 5 years apart in age. There's no way that 16-year-old is allowed to work in that bar in New York.
I think I prefer the way the film the newest trilogy treats that kind of awkwardness, because it's not overdone. It's a much more subtle awkwardness that comes and goes, and it kind of picks its spots. But just watching two people sit there for 30 seconds yammering at each other with sheepish glances, I don't know. It just goes on too long. Like Thor Ragnarok, everything goes on too long. Yeah. Anyway, I
think Andrew Garfield, at least, like, he is old, but he, like, in the sequel, he's like, he looks like a grown-ass man, but in this one, I kind of believe his age, because he just have a youthfulness about him where I just like, it doesn't bother me. But in the sequel, he's like, oh, I gotta go to high school graduation. It's like, no, college graduation.
Yeah, this should have been college, not high school.
And even then, it's like, no, you graduated from training at your job.
Yeah, right. You learned a trade. You're like out of apprenticeship, and you're now starting your own business as like yeah, dude. Come on now, high school.
Yeah, he's too old for this part.
Oh, you guys can't say that. Tobey Maguire is 16 in the first Spider-Man movie. Are you supposed to pretend to be 16?
They immediately rush him into college.
Yeah, the second one.
in the second Amazing Spider-Man movie, it's just like him graduating from high school where he should have been like in like university. I guess like there's so much in these movies where it would make sense, but then they don't want to do it because it's like, well, that's what we did last time, and they're too afraid to be similar, even though this follows like so many of the same beats as like the Sam Raimi movies.
I don't know why they went so close to that, but I don't even remember much about the Tobey Maguire movies at all. It's been so long since I've seen them.
Yeah, same.
They're very 90s.
Earnestly excellent, even though they're very cheesy. But Sam Raimi, just something about that way that guy makes the movie. And maybe it's just nostalgia, because like the first Spider-Man movie for me was such a big deal. Like it took over my life for the better part of the year. It's all I could think about was like Spider-Man and that movie.
Okay, I know who to talk to when I finally record it someday about it. Oh, and this is, I mean, I also like, I keep saying this, but there's another scene where you have Peter where he's kind of learning his powers. He's at a factory or something, like abandoned park or a dock or whatever the hell he's doing. He's skating around in places he really shouldn't be. But that does fit a high schooler, just fucking around.
This is a music video for the weirdest song, and now that
that's what you guys are talking about, right? Then
yeah.
I don't like this song. This song's weird.
It's all right. It's fine. It's Till Kingdom Come. It's a Coldplay song, so your tolerance of the song will depend on your tolerance of Coldplay. I think it's fine. It's a song that feels like it should have a beginning. It's a song of middles, if that makes sense. Like it feels like the whole song is just a middle, right? It doesn't begin or end. It just kind of middles throughout. This is a cool little scene. He's skateboarding, and he found, I guess, the only abandoned factory that has, a beautifully crafted, half pipe. Fine. That's fine. It's a little, it's kind of like just stuck in the middle there, though. It's almost out of place, but it's fine. And I wasn't crying about it.
It also brings up one of my really weird questions I've always had about Spider-Man is how do his little feelers get through his shoes?
That is an amazing question. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't really think about it, because I know like the Raimi films, like they kind of in this he just kind of sticks to it, but in the Raimi films they kind of show like the thing protruding from his fingers, and even then it's just like, okay, you establish that there's like maybe not spikes, but like some type of barbs. But it's like, how does that get through like your costume? You kind of just roll with it.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. But yeah, that's a very good point. That's a great question. Magic, movie magic.
And we didn't mention earlier, but when he's getting in trouble, you have that whole thing where he's like, okay, where Ben tells him, okay, you have to pick up, your aunt tonight. And then he completely forgets it, blows him off, goes see Connors, and gives Connors the equation he needs to finish the cure, the thing they're making.
Algorithm.
Yes. And earlier he had told him that he was, Richard Parker's son. I think it's Richard Parker or Ben Parker, whoever the hell it is.
It's Richard and Mary Parker.
Okay, so I was right. So yeah, he tells him that, and then you have that whole stuff. And I mean, again, I was like, okay, I know where this is going, because when he ignores that call and you have all this stuff coming where when he finally does go home and gets yelled at, like, I'm like, oh, we're getting near the part where he's gonna do something and get Uncle Ben killed. And sure enough, I was right. It doesn't take long after that when you have Uncle. I do like the way that this imitates Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire very, very much, where he goes someplace and he's trying to buy a milk and the guy won't let him just have a freaking penny. Like, I was like, that was just dumb as hell. Like, just let him have. Why do you care if he takes a penny? But you have to
spend $10 to get a penny. What kind of nonsense is that? But
it was just some guy being an asshole.
Yeah, just being a jerk about it.
I guess in that position where it's just like he probably gets pushed around by people all day. It's nice for them to do the pushing. Like, I believe it. It's just like, I have power over this one thing, and I'm going to do it because that's all I have. Something about like the Connors thing is like, I like that they go to his house, but something that I really don't like about this movie with respect to his character, and I think there is something in one of the deleted scenes, is that they never established like his family. Because like in the Spider-Man cartoon, which is where I mostly know the lizard from, like the 90s series, like they kind of established like his wife and his kid being concerned about him, and kind of just like, oh, if I had my arm, like I would, be more of a man to my kid or something. Like, they never really established how he lost it and why he's so driven to get it. And I think that's something that's kind of missing for his character, because at a certain point, what I noticed in this rewatch is that it seems like it drags. This is almost like a movie game where it's just like it takes so much time, and they're like, oh crap, we have to accelerate everything so fast. And it really hit me this rewatch where it's like, oh man, he's just automatically like crazy. Like, at least with like the Raimi films, they kind of say like, oh, the goblin serum causes insanity, but they've never mentioned about like his mental faculties being altered.
You say that, Blair, but they also totally make fun of it in like No Way Home too, because like I think it's another conversation between Connors and someone else.
More like Sauron. Like, people always have that joke about like Sauron from the X-Men, where Spider-Man's talking to him and he's like, you should cure cancer. Like, he's like, yeah, but I just want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah. It's a comic panel that I've seen a meme of.
It's a great comic panel, to be fair.
Yeah, I have that issue in there. I think it's from Spider-Man the X-Men.
And then, like, I mean, all about because Peter couldn't buy milk. Like, I do like that, where he doesn't buy the milk. The guy won't let him. He walks away. This guy robs the store and tosses him the milk. And because he tossed him the milk, it's like, oh, hey, he's my buddy now. And then when he leaves, he's kind of, instead of saying, well, not my problem, he says the same thing to the guy. He's like, well, why didn't you do something? He said, not my policy. And then just walks off. And because of him being a dumbass, even though, I mean, like, really, you expect some random guy to just stop somebody who's robbing you? Like, I mean, not like, the first movie makes more sense.
Well, in Rewind, now that we're kind of discussing it, it's even more problematic, because the thing about it is, like, is he gone from the store when he takes the money? Because it's not even a violent interaction. It's the guy just, like, knocks something over, and then he takes the money. So it's the whole thing about, like, Spider-Man is that he's at the wrestling arena in the comics and in the first Raimi film, and he's like, oh, that guy is going with my money. And he's like, yeah, whatever. It's not my problem. But in this, it's like, maybe I should rewatch it again, because I can't remember the chain of events. As I know he knocks something over and then he reaches in and grabs the money.
Yes, that's all he does. And then Peter is about to leave. He tosses Peter the milk. And then Peter goes out of the store. The guy leaves the store. The clerk runs out and says, "Why didn't you stop him?" Or do something. It's like, and then that's when he says, "Not my policy," and walks off. But I mean, I would never expect a customer at any store to stop somebody. Like, that's just,
Yeah,
that's
because
just
in
crazy.
like
I mean, I've seen people steal stuff.
Spider-Man film, they established that he's like, you could have tore that guy apart, but like that guy doesn't know that he could do that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a kid. Like, you would never. I mean, I've seen people when I worked at Sam's Club. People stole a TV. Like, I didn't expect customers to jump them too. Like, I don't care. It ain't, well, no one should have been. Like, come on.
We're all
now.
in this together, customers. Come on, let's go get them.
Come on, we got to keep our prices down because
That's
that
right.
one stolen TV. Why we
This
raise our prices? Not
corporation
because of
will
inflation
survive.
or
We gotta
corporate
make
greed. No.
sure that the people at top get 3 new private jets this year.
Right. This corporation will not suffer. This aggression will not stand. I don't know. I agree with you actually. When I was watching it 2 nights ago, my reaction, it didn't hit me like that. It was more of, hey man, help me out. Someone freaked out and scared, looking for help, and it was an opportunity for Peter Parker to just be like, "Oh, screw you! You didn't want to give me 2 pennies." And as a result of Peter's indifference, his father figure is killed. And
But
obviously,
not even what I have a problem with that is that like he's not really threatening anyone, and the gun falls out, and Ben reaches for it. But when I read that situation, it's not like he's gonna grab it to hurt someone. Like he should really just have walked away. Like I know they have the conversation about like you have a responsibility to do something, but like in that situation, it's like, nah, I just would have put my hands up and walked away. Like it doesn't. I don't like it in this one. It never bothered me before until this most recent watch, where it's just like, no, this isn't handled very well.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah.
It's handled. It's because and I swear, like I know it's only happened twice, but I really don't want to see Uncle Ben die anymore, and I'm really glad that the home series fixed that. But it makes more sense in the Sam Raimi films because like Uncle Ben in the Sam Raimi films wasn't doing anything. He completely did not deserve to get shot. All he was doing was sitting in his car. I think he was waiting for Peter.
Yeah, he was waiting to pick him up because he's like, I'll pick you up at 10 after you go to the library, but he went to the wrestling match.
Yeah. And Uncle Ben was just minding his own business. He didn't, I think when they retconned it in 3, it's implied that he tried to take the gun away, but he wasn't really doing anything, and it was honestly circumstances. This one, like Uncle Ben, the guy dropped the gun. At that moment, you should really back up and be like, "Oh, I'm not fucking with this."
Yeah, it's only the police were chasing him, and there was a shootout, and he was like, or the police had a gun on him, and he is like gonna grab the gun and retaliate. There was no one around.
Yeah, he just could have left it there. He didn't need to get involved and get himself killed.
It's like, as Bill put it, movies got a movie. So
yeah.
I don't think I disliked it as much as you guys. Honestly, I think Peter could have done something. Now think about like end of movie, Peter would have done something. He was slapped him with his webs, or just ran after him and used his super strength to throw the guy in the air. Like he probably would have done something, but at this stage, he's just too immature to really step in, because the guy was like, you're a jerk. You lost your money. Tough luck. And the downline effect was, Ben dying. Now it could have been anybody. I also think that's interesting. You guys are talking about like, well, why did Ben grab the gun and do the wrestling thing? Yeah, it's interesting, that piece of it. But as far as it goes for establishing not only the revenge piece of this film, but Peter Parker's lack of character, I think it's actually effective. And even if it is a bit written, for lack of a better term.
Okay. And this is when Ben dies, and I mean, it's kind of a touching scene, how upset he gets, which again makes perfect sense.
Yeah, totally.
I like it better than what I remember of Spider-Man 1, but it's been a long time. And I also do like the little stuff where you have him, where he gets back home and he's listening to the voicemail, and how like broken he is about what happened, and like and then you have like the small scene where he goes back to school and everyone's just parting ways for him. And it isn't until I think Gwen walks up to him, Gwen hugs him. Oh no, first Flash tries like
I like the Flash bit.
I do too,
Great,
where he's
really
like,
good.
hey, I understand.
It's great.
He thinks he's gonna do it, but he's like, nah. Like even I get it. Like this is like I understand that this is a really bad thing, and it shows like real growth, that he's not just like a one-dimensional like jerk.
And it also very loosely, and it's maybe just me reading into it, that Flash may have had something like this happen to his family, and which might explain some of his bullying tendencies. Maybe he lost a father figure when he was young, the way I read that was like not only empathizing with Peter, like, dude, I'm so sorry this happened to you. That's kind of a little bit of depth that maybe I just read into that and wrote that character for him, but. So that's kind of what I read. I think it was excellent. That was really good.
Great. They don't touch on it in any movie. In the MCU, they kind of say like Flash's parents are rich and neglectful, but kind of in the comics, his dad was like really violent alcoholic.
Oh,
so that's kind of explains like why he is how he is. And again, they could have like really did something with that later on, but it is what it is.
Cool.
Too bad. I mean, again, I agree with you. I would like to see more with Flash. And this is when Gwen hugs him. I thought that was a good little scene too. She hugs him, but he doesn't really even care. He just keeps going. Like he's too upset to even think about anything. And this is where you have him like, you kind of see the very angry Peter where he's starting to become Spider-Man, but not really yet. Like he's just going around hunting people who look kind of like the guy who killed Ben, just trying to find him and beating the shit out of everybody who looks like him, who's committing crimes.
Yeah, and I think, real vigilante stuff, right?
And I think
trying to get revenge.
Like where he doesn't even have a mask at first, and the guy's like, "I saw your face, I saw your face." And he's like, "Oh," and then the next time you see him, he has a mask on now. And then like you have a bunch of ideas where he's, you show him getting the Oscorp cable and making the web shooters. Like you see all this. You have him doing the Batman thing, sitting on a gargoyle. Listening for crime. You have all these different things that happen pretty quickly. And I thought they were very good. Like the way they do it. And you're introduced to Captain Stacy pretty quickly too. And him, being against Peter, being against Spider-Man, and which all makes sense because the guy's a freaking vigilante. Like you're going to be against him.
So he has every right to be, because unlike in the Raimi films, it's, he does this selfish thing and he's like, no, I can't be selfish anymore. But he's thinks he's doing good, but he's really just out for himself. And I mean, the eyes of the police, it's not like he's a hero who's above the law. It's no, this guy doing something bad, and they kind of have the conversation later where it's just like, oh, you take out the drug dealer, but I'm looking for the kingpin. Like we're gonna follow the guy to the top, and this guy keeps taking out the low level people, so it just makes our job harder to do.
It's a very good explanation of why he would not want a spider person kind of doing this vigilante stuff. Because again, it's a very good explanation. Dennis Leary is really good in this. I like him in this role. He's a lot of fun, and he plays that stern, cop kind of character, dad figure, obviously dad for Gwen character very well. And this whole thing is good. It kind of gets rapid fire, like Blair was saying. Is like all of a sudden the movie's like, whoa, wow, we're about an hour and change in. Let's get through this stuff. Boogie woogie. Let's make these web shooters. And of course, I will state for the record that making the web shooters is smart people doing smart things. So check that off your bingo card, y'all. I've said it.
I have a really good insight to this too that I was thinking about while I was watching this last night. So you have Peter who does all this stuff. He you have to see earlier in the scene where he's fighting against five guys and he falls through, and he's going around looking for the guy who, basically killed Uncle Ben. I very much see this character, and then like you watch No Way Home and you hear like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man be like, yeah, after Gwen died, I really just took up vigilante and I stopped pulling my punches. And I'm like, I could totally see Andrew Garfield's character doing that. And this movie does solidify that.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why No Way Home is the best Amazing Spider-Man film.
It really was.
I think so too. That movie was fucking awesome. And then you see Peter I like the way Peter makes the suit where he kind of ordered stuff too. Like he's on the internet just finding different things and kind of just putting stuff together. I thought that was really cool. I like this version of him getting the suit versus like the way you have it in Homecoming, where Tony Stark makes it, or how you have it in Spider-Man movies where he kind of just knits it together. I like the fact that he's ordering stuff and putting it together.
Yeah, it's like the Sam Raimi films where he's established like Aunt May is losing their house and he has no money, but he has like a high quality movie grade costume.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I thought it was a good way to do it. And this is when you have the car thief where we were just talking about where he ties up the wrong guy and then they hate him. But you had a cool scene of Spider-Man. This is the first time you actually see him as Spider-Man swinging around, running on rooftops and swinging. And I do like the joke when the guy pulls out the knife. He's like, "My weakness, little knives." Like that made me laugh. That was great.
I did like that. However, like in the lead up to this movie, that scene was everywhere.
Yeah.
So like that
really?
joke was that joke was just done to death by the time that movie came out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because
It's a good joke. It's a good joke, but again, it's him gloating. It's him gloating, and yeah, it's a criminal, and he's trying to steal a car and all the rest of it. But again, Spider-Man just being a bit of a dick, you know.
That is like that's what I did like, even though like I kind of knew the joke is that there isn't a lot of Spider-Man just being quippy with bad guys in the Raimi films, and when it does, like it comes off as very unnatural. But here it's like, oh no, this is Spider-Man right here.
Also, one thing that I very specifically remember, because you can tell it with certain movies. You can tell it with every movie. This movie also came out in 3D, and that's why there's a lot of scenes of him web slinging.
I was wondering if that was the case. It did, huh? Oh, it was the 3D nonsense. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, 2012 was that around that time when everything was 3D, I think.
Yeah, it was in the pocket of that. Oh, okay. I was wondering that.
World.
There's also two things with that. One leads off into the other. I think it's also new technology. So him being in first person flying around, that was all new, like CGI technology. So it looked really good.
I like the first person scenes.
Yeah, it looks really good. But also there's something that they mentioned. I remember because they were talking about in the No Way Home, and I think the game, there's the director for this movie created something where it was called like web lining or something like that, where whenever Spider-Man shoots a web and you see him like pull the web closer into him, that was something they made for this movie, and they use it in the games now too.
Oh, the web games?
Yeah, the new Spider-Man games, the new one, the new Sony one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a thing of like, like the PS1 games, it was like a little bit primitive where like you would just kind of shoot an enemy and pull him in and punch him, things like that.
That makes sense. I was wondering why they had all those, like, they had so many scenes of him being up close and swinging. I'm like, why? But that makes complete sense now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of it either, so I get it. Because I hate the 3D craze. As I said before in the show, I hate that. But watching him run on, like, running on top of cars and swinging, like, all that, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really cool Spider-Man scene. Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Man doing Spider-Man things. And again, we are over an hour into this movie, and this is the first opportunity we've seen him to do the Spider-Man things, and it's really nice to watch him swing around, and obviously like everyone has said, it's really fun. The action is handled really well for the most part. Even the scenes when he's like running from he's starting fights in the alley and doing American Ninja Warrior leg thrusts between the walls as he's evading his the bad guys. It's good. I think it's really it's effective. The action is pretty well handled again for the most part.
I do know the part where he does he yells crotch and he does like the spinning like leg throw. That
that gets me.
Yeah, someone made a really funny joke that every Spider-Man does that except maybe Tobey Maguire, and very funnily, ironically, so does Black Widow. Black Widow does the same leg spin too. So it's a spider thing.
I immediately thought of Black Widow when he did that. He did that move. So it's interesting that it's become a staple, or was a staple of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also when you kind of get more about Oscorp, like why Lizard does some of the or Connor does some of the shit he does very soon. Like because at Oscorp he did the thing that Peter had showed him, and it worked for the rats. The rats regrew their arm. This is before the side effects take effect. And then the guy for Oscorp, I don't even remember his name. He's just the henchman, I call him, and he's just like, okay, we got to go to human trials now. And Connor's like, we're not ready. And he's like, well, Norman is dying, so we got to save his life. And like. I also like how Norman is never in this movie. Like, he's mentioned multiple times, but he's never in this film. Like, they were just holding that off.
I was waiting for it. I kept thinking, all right, when we see in Norman, and like you said, it doesn't happen.
I'm assuming it would have been the third or fourth movie would have been Norman. Because I don't think they showed Norman in the second movie either, right?
He's in the second. It's Chris Cooper.
He's also dead.
Oh.
Yeah, like they have the sequel, because they have Chris Cooper, and he's Norman Osborn, and he's an old man, and like that's again why the sequel is so bad, because he's like, oh, Harry, you have the same disease as me, and I lived a
Goblet
complete
disease.
life. And then suddenly he's like, oh no, it's going to happen to you in 5 minutes. And it's like, what?
Every time you guys mention something from that movie that I haven't remembered because maybe I just blocked it out, I instantly want to watch it more because it
I'm
just
kind of
sounds so
convinced to myself that I'm watching it
stupid.
tonight too.
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
kind of like, hey Jane, let's do a quick screening of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Come on, let's make this happen. Wow.
I mean, if this
Wow,
does
wow, wow.
good, I can guarantee it will be on the show soon.
Well, I'll wait for that then. But seriously, that all sounds just ridiculously stupid. And kind of
'Cause
like
I'm-
deliciously stupid. Like,
Maybe, but I
maybe
remember
not.
it was horrible, so
all right.
we shall see.
So the
But I like
characters-
how you have Oscorp wanting to do the trials, and then the guy's like, "Well, I'll just go to the veterans hospital and just start experimenting on people." It's like,
Oh, yeah, that's great.
bad.
Just so freaking bad, right? Like, let's go to a veterans hospital and just start plugging people with green goop and hope their
Oh.
legs return. Wow.
so there's a small scene like shortly. There's a couple things that happen, but I want to mention this since you brought it up. Like where because he's going to do the human trials and he's making he gets all upset about it, and Connor ends up injecting himself with the goo, and all I could think of that reminds me of Reanimator stuff because it was green.
Yes, that wonderful, wonderful film, the classic B movie schlock. Yes, I did not think of Reanimator,
But
but
we covered on the show because people hate me and apparently voted for it. So
I voted for it too. I did.
But yeah, we skip over a small scene that I actually think is really good in this movie too, and it's the one of Aunt May and Peter arguing, and Peter is just still doing an okay job of being Spider-Man, but it's something that I would probably question too. And another superhero movie uses it to a very funny extent of him coming home and having his shit kicked in, black eye, bruises, stuff like that. And it almost kind of makes you think that she knows he's Spider-Man.
That's
Well,
a good
yeah.
point. Yeah,
They,
go ahead,
maybe.
Glenn.
they have a scene later on where it's something where I think it's after the scene that comes up next where it's just like Captain Stacy's like, I'm going to put the APB out on Spider-Man, and he just storms off from the breakfast table, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
she
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know. She knows now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a really good bit of acting from Sally Field as well, because she's mourning the death of her husband, her nephew, is that right? Yeah, her nephew
yeah.
is spiraling. Like, he looks like he's spiraling. Like, what is going on? And is spiraling in a way she can't fathom or understand. He's coming home late at night with bruises on his face and cuts. Like, are you in Fight Club? Like underground wrestling? Like, what's
we don't talk about Fight
going?
Club.
We don't talk about Fight Club. That's first and second rule. I sorry, made me laugh. I felt so bad for her. Like, again, looking at it through the lens of a parent, knowing that I'm going to have to like deal with that with my son or my daughter, saying like, what's going on? I can't understand what's going on with you because, I grew up as a kid without social media and half the pressures you are. So just tell me, like, just talk to me. I just want to talk to you and hear you. and that's what she wants. Like, she's not trying to beat him up. She's just like, what's going on? And he doesn't give her anything because he's a kid and he just can't. So it's very striking. And I think all the scenes between him and Aunt May are very good. I think both are really doing good work.
It's used in both in the real quick. It's used both in the movie and the comic. And Kick-Ass, he gets beat up a lot, and they find him in the middle of the street, and he like didn't want to get caught, so he threw his outfit off, and so the rumor spreads around that he's doing gay prostitution. Just reminded me. It reminded me of that, and I thought it was really funny.
Oh, that movie. That's a movie.
That's a movie and a comic.
It is a comic.
Did they ever make a third one? Did they ever make a Hit Girl movie?
No.
Oh, okay. I remember they were going to at one time.
The second movie didn't do so hot, surprisingly.
I remember not liking that movie, but it's been forever, and I my tune could change, but I remember not liking.
I know people really like Kick-Ass, and the only thing I remember, like most things that have this character in it, is Nicolas Cage.
I love Nicolas Cage in that movie. God, do I love that
Amazing.
man.
And that's all I remember. Yeah.
And then you have when Peter goes back to school and he sees Gwen. This is when Gwen invites him over for dinner, which I like the way she does it. She's just like, "Hey, are you busy?" And she just, here's my address and here's my apartment number. Just go. Like, she doesn't give him a choice, and I like that. I thought that was really good too.
Yeah, I like her pushing it, right? Like, hey, I like you. clearly you like me too, but you're too busy bumbling and mumbling during every conversation we have. So here, just come over. Here's the address. Be there at 8. You be there at 6, and we'll have dinner, and you'll meet the parents. Like, we're gonna do all this now, and I like that about her character. It's very.
He sneaks into her apartment through the window.
I don't get that. Like, she even says you could go through the lobby, and I don't forget what his response was.
The doorman was scary.
The doorman was scary. Yeah. I mean,
again, this should have been a red flag. Like, why is my potential boyfriend on the fucking stairwell? The fire escape outside. I'm also not used to fire escapes, but that's a New York thing, right?
Yes, although a lot of fire escapes don't allow you to actually like scale them. You have to bring down the ladders because they are for escaping fires. So like the ladders are generally not there because that would mean that like a criminal or someone could just walk up to your fire escape and like break in your window and break in. So in my apartment, at least, the fire escape was there and I had one. You were not supposed to hang out on it though. It's only for escape. It's not there to just hang out on.
Not like in all the New York sitcoms and everything that we watch, like Friends, where everyone's just hanging out on the fire escape.
No, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to put chairs out there because it's not designed for you to lounge on and have a party. Although I have had parties in my apartment, people were hanging out kind of sort of on the fire escape. I had a 400 square foot apartment, and I one time had about 30 people in there for one of my holiday hootenannies, as I called it. And so people were kind of on the fire escape because they had no choice. But you're not supposed to do that. And again, those things don't stay down. Like I said, you put them down because you're trying to escape a fire.
Okay. Well, I mean, he did have power, so he could just,
he just webbed himself up there, which is fine. Which would have been kind of suspect too. Like, how did you get up here? Like, the ladders aren't down.
He did some parkour off the wall,
Perhaps, again, American Ninja Warrior, just kind of like,
You just ran up the wall, jump.
Yeah, exactly.
That worked, yeah. I mean, it works American Ninja Warrior, but yeah, it ain't easy.
I think one scene that I feel like, we talk about how there's a lot of weird nonsense going around the movie. I feel like some stuff should be cut to maybe give Connors a little bit of backstory. Because I think one of the weirder scenes in this is the part where he's like at like a window and like he stands at the window and he's like, oh, this is what it would look like if I had 2 hands. It's just a really weird scene.
Yeah, you're right. They do something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
They never establish what was the accident that caused it. And there was a scene where he's talking to Billy Connors, his son, but it's cut. It's on it's in the deleted scenes. Like I haven't watched them since I bought the Blu-ray in 2012, but I know they're there. They shot something. I don't think they had Martha, but I know they had Billy.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm curious now to look up these deleted scenes.
Yeah, I have to watch those later.
And this is when Connor grows the arm, and he's kind of normal at first, and he takes the cab back to find, because he's trying to track down the Oscorp guy. I don't even remember his name. He's trying to track down the Oscorp guy, and you have a small scene where he starts kind of like he's starting to become the lizard. Like things are starting to happen.
So this is also where my edibles kicked in, like super hard. And whenever he like removed his arm from like the skin and it was like really like fleshy and stubby, I just started cracking up. Like I thought it was the fucking funniest thing ever. It's just a weird looking arm.
It is a very stupid looking CGI arm. It is very dopey. But yeah, I think I had a good chuckle of that too as he was transforming. And we'll talk about the final form of Lizard in a bit. And how weird and dopey it kind of sort of looks. Like it works, but it doesn't work, if that makes sense. But we'll talk about it. But yeah, that was pretty neat.
And then you have them at the dinner, and I do like him. He starts arguing with her dad about Spider-Man, how Spider-Man's not he's not a crook, he's a good guy. Like I do like that. Like, and also I think it makes sense that a high schooler would, be like that too.
And I think that's where Peter realizes that he's not actually doing any good. Because he's like, I think he's trying to provide a service. And he's like, no, he's not providing a service. He's just going after this one type of criminal. And that kind of leads into the next scene where like he's on the roof with Gwen and like he sees an accident in like the distance or an explosion or something. And he's like, oh, I should go do something about this.
Yeah.
Because of what Captain Stacy had just kind of said to him is that, like, you just going after this one guy, that's not helping people, that's just being selfish. So it's kind of like merging Uncle Ben's message with like this kind of new kind of father-ish figure speech.
Yeah, and Dennis Leary again does really good work here, and I like that conversation, how it escalates pretty quickly. It felt very natural. And yeah, I agree. He kind of decided, you know what, he's right. He's right. He's got a point. Maybe this isn't the best utilization of my abilities. Is this the point where the two of them smooch?
Yes.
Yeah, see, they run out to the roof, they get into the argument, or, he runs out the roof, and then he tells her he's Spider-Man, I think, and then they kiss.
He's trying to, and then he just, like, she starts to walk away, and he shoots the web and pulls her in.
So stupid. No, that's not good. That's not
so
good.
Smooth. It's smooth.
It's so out of character. He's sitting there on this balcony of some fanciful, New York apartment. I don't even know where this thing exists. Maybe Upper West Side. I don't know. And he's sitting on the patio, and he's going, I can't do it. Okay, I can't do it. And she's like, say it, stupid. Like, just say the words. And she's like, he's like, I got bit. She's like, I got bit too. She's like really trying to push it because she knows he's just this like mope. And then finally, like fucking like a D'Artagnan or something out of like a 30s, gangster movie, like 30s film noir movie. Hey, baby, pulls her towards her. She spins. Does she spin with this move?
Yeah, she spins.
Of course she spins because this is stupid. And he pulls her in, gives the smooch. You in your notes, you say, you ask me in the notes, is this earned? Okay. I know what you're going for, sir.
Is this bill approved?
Is this bill approved?
And I put my note. Yeah.
I say yes because Gwen has worked really hard for it. Gwen deserves it. Dopey Peter Parker does not deserve this amorous smooch. I couldn't even think of a proper way of saying. He's like twirled like a dance floor, like she was on. Like the rumba, like, hey!
I mean, also, if someone pulls you and you twirl, there's a good chance you're just going to fall.
Most likely, if you're not expecting, you're going to twist her ankle.
Or would tear off that skirt or something, because it can hold up a car.
Like rip her stomach out, like all of a sudden it turns into a body horror movie that I would certainly enjoy.
Like she dies in this movie instead because he just kills her.
Right, because he like attaches the spider web to her and she pulls her arm off like in a Cronenberg film. When that happened, I was like, this is stupid. It stinks. I don't like this. But again, I think the kiss is earned because she's worked really hard for it. And this dope has not. So
we always be the ongoing Bill joke.
Oh, golly. Golly gee willikers. So
and then the cops leave because her dad's a cop and he runs off and then Peter just jumps off the roof to go after them. And I like how when Stacy says, I'm in trouble. Yeah,
it's cute. It's a good line.
It's cute. It really was cute because, like, she's falling for him and she's like, oh, God, I'm falling for Spider-Man. Like, I like it a lot. I also like that she falls for Peter Parker and not falls for Spider-Man first and then falls for Peter. And then finds out, oh, you are Spider-Man? Well, I like Spider-Man better than I'll date you now.
Icing on the cake. Yeah.
Has anyone in this
man, I can't wait to go back and watch Spider-Man 1 and 2 and just see how terrible they make Mary Jane in those movies.
Has anyone watched the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, it's now on Netflix in the US. It is incredible, and they have a Gwen Stacy Peter Parker relationship, and it is very natural and adorable. And if you even at all like this, you should definitely watch that show. It's only like 26 episodes, and it's some of the best Spider-Man media in the past like 2 decades.
Wow. That's ringing endorsement. That's awesome, man. Let's definitely check it out.
I will now slightly sour that series because it's the only way I know how. The Peter Parker for that show is voiced by Drake Bell.
No, that's Josh Keaton. Drake Bell's Ultimate Keaton? Spider-Man. Yeah.
Is he? Okay.
That was his first go with Spider-Man. He was almost the Spider-Man for the first movie game, but they got rid of him once Tobey Maguire came in.
Oh, that's lame.
Who was the first guy you mentioned, Joe?
Oh, Drake Bell is a lot of people don't like him recently because of something that happened. It's from the Drake Bell from Drake and Josh.
Yeah, he did something bad, I take it.
Oh, it was some weird thing where he was like 20 talking to like a 16-year-old girl, but it's the weird thing. Well, it's the weird thing where he admitted to it. He didn't know she was 18 though, and I guess they had proof because he went to court for it and everything. But it's people don't like him now because of it, but he won the court case.
Yeah, I mean, and if he was 16, I mean, if she was 16 and he was 20 and she lied about that's also not that. I mean,
it just didn't come up. Yeah.
I mean, people do lie, so in both sexes. But
So is it the Shannon Hamilton situation from Mallrats?
I haven't seen Mallrats.
Yeah, I mean, if he won the court case, he probably didn't know then. Otherwise, he wouldn't have won the court case. I feel, but he is a celebrity, so that does give him some extra status. But
yeah,
okay, that's not. I mean, I was. It could have been a lot worse.
Oh yeah. Oh, go watch.
It could have been like he knew she was 16. Like, oh, that's great. You're underage. I'm all for it. Even when you're 20, 16, like it doesn't seem that far off, even though you should not be doing that. But yeah. Okay. And this is kind of when you first start really seeing Spider-Man be Spider-Man in this movie. He goes to the bridge, and you have Lizard at the bridge, and Lizard is knocking cars over. And this is when you see Spider-Man, like we mentioned earlier, trying to save people, and he's trying to grab cars, and he's not like. There's a one point where he has the choice either go after Lizard or save this kid in the car, which ends up saving the movie for him later. So he like you have. I did like the scene where he jumps down. He goes to save the kid. The kid is terrified to move, so he takes off his mask, gives him his mask, and says, "It'll make you brave." And is doing all this to save the kid, even though he should not have given him his mask. But I'm fine. It makes sense. Like I thought it was a very sweet scene to show that Peter is changing.
I don't like the payoff because we'll get there. But I do like this scene a lot. And I remember watching this for the first time when like he kind of gets the kid and puts him back and gives him to his dad, and he's like, who are you? And then he's like, I'm Spider-Man. Like that kind of hit me hard the first time I saw this, because I was like, yeah, this is him fully embracing being like a hero.
Yeah, which I love.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. I was a little writery, a little forced, but I will always side on the side of a genuine sentiment, and forgive occasional stupidity for that. It was the end result was a really solid, was good. I think he could just grabbed him with his web and then pulled him up at first. And it could have been the first option instead of having him climb. But whatever. I guess you're in the moment. It was good. I think it was really, really well done. And again, that payoff. I'm Spider-Man. Blair, you nailed it. It's it's kind of this affirmation. Like, yes, this is who I am. I'm a hero, and this is what's worthwhile. I'll get Lizard later. This was more important. Whatever happened to the Oscorp guy?
I don't think
you don't see him again in this entire movie. I think he's in the second movie though, right?
No, he's not. And I was actually going to bring that up because I had to look up the character's name because I don't know if they say it.
They do, but it's
Raji. But he's played by an actor named Ifran Khan. He was in Jurassic World and sadly passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, dang.
I'm not sure of the cause. I just know that he did die.
Okay. In the movie, I think the character is supposed to be killed by Lizard. I don't know. They just kind of walk away from it.
Yeah, he kind of just his car gets pushed towards the bridge. I don't know if it gets pushed off.
Yeah, and he's just they were just done with him. I guess he just got so scared he quit his job.
Yeah, and they're just like, okay, we gotta.
Because they kind of set up Oscorp being the villain kind of thing, and then they go very much into Connor because Connor's in the sewers now, and this is when he starts to I think he's starting to kind of degrade and starting to kind of go insane for no reason. But I don't know. I thought that was you have a small scene with Peter sees the news calling for Spider-Man's arrest. And I think he also sees something about there being reward for a picture of the Lizard or something.
Yeah, it's only he just is passing a subway or something, and he sees a copy of the Daily Bugle just to establish that it's there in this universe. And it's I can't remember if it's money for pictures of Spider-Man or the lizard creature.
Yeah, right.
But this is also what causes so much trouble for Spider-Man too, because you have a little bit later where he decides to go in the sewers and hunt him and take a picture of him. You have a small scene with Peter and Gwen at the stadium, and again, I like everything with Peter and Gwen when they're just talking. I love that. And
he
I thought
grabs the football and throws it and breaks
the thing. Yeah.
dents the goalpost. It's like, Peter, you're still
And
ruining
this-
things, bud. It's not good.
Oh no, and this is when he goes to see Connor, and then Connor kind of blows him off. Says, I gave everybody the week off, yeah. And okay, then you have where he sees the lizard mouse and realizes that Connor is the lizard and gets all, and then he goes to the police station, tells Stacy, like, hey, you want to check out Connors, and they don't believe him, but then they do kind of believe him. I mean, you have a couple small scenes like that, and you have Peter sees, okay, here's a question I wanted to ask. Bill, since you're a New Yorker at one point, so you see a bunch of Peter sees a bunch of lizards going into the sewers. There aren't. How are there lizards in New York? Because I'm pretty sure there aren't.
I don't know if I've encountered a bunch of lizards in New York. I mean, there is greenery. I mean, you have Central Park and you have the gardens.
Yeah, but lizards
and
need
such
heat.
Well, it gets hot in New York. You kidding me?
I live in Minnesota and Wisconsin. There's no lizards here.
Well, it gets hot in the summer. It doesn't really specify what time of year this is in. I don't know. I never had lizards in my apartment, and I saw rats, in the streets.
It
Rats
would
that
make more
literally
sense if
look
there were
like-
rats that he was following and he was going after
Yeah,
some
but they're
rat
lizard.
villain. Vermin. There's vermin. He's a character
There's
in Spider-Man.
rats. Yeah, rats the size of cats in New York. I've seen those, and cockroaches galore. My wife, when she was hunting for an apartment, one of her many, she went to an apartment. She opened up some cabinets, and just cockroaches just streamed out of there. And they wanted like $1,200 a month. So
Were the cockroaches free?
I think they came with it. I think they were part of it. I don't know. I'm sure lizards exist. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I just thought it was
I don't have
funny.
I don't have a good answer for you.
It should have been a
Vermin's
rat.
in the tie-in game.
I know. I like the tie-in game, by the way.
So, like, one of the other weird things too is it's really funny because you mentioned about the Kirk Connors thing. If Kirk Connors also kind of threatens him in a way of like, oh yeah, no, you're definitely the lizard, because he's like, hey, do you know any way of like capturing a lizard? Because you study lizards too, and he's like, you can't hunt this lizard. He's the most ultimate of predator. And it's like, okay, maybe.
And he's like, I heard there's a new species of lizard in New York, and he's quite deadly. And most lizards are at the top of their respective food chains. And it's just like they're essentially having a conversation where they're just admitting that, hey, I'm Spider-Man. Hey, you're the lizard.
Yeah,
pretty
it's
much.
very silly. It's a very silly exchange there for sure.
And it isn't until... And the way that the lizard finds out who Peter is, that Peter is Spider-Man, I think it's just stupid. Like, you have Connor goes into the sewer. You see Connor in the sewer with all this damn equipment. How the hell he got all that equipment in the sewer, I don't know.
It's insane. It's insane. He builds his own little mini lab.
Yeah,
Where's the power?
It's like, oh, come on, we wasted all this time and drama. Come on, we got to get to the end.
Yeah,
Like, how did you get all this
right.
equipment in there, like, in a couple days? And how did Oscorp go, hey, I'm just moving out this computer and this? Oh, that's fine, Connors. You're working from home? Yeah, I'm working from home. Take my whole lab with me. All right, buddy. Just write it down. We'll see you later. Don't, like, yeah, come on now. I don't think that's
Oscorp
how that
sent him
works.
a whole setup where a couple monitors and a laptop and a docking station. And they're like, "Hey, you're gonna work from home now? Okay, cool." Hey,
And then they send them like all the other equipment too to go along with it to make the chemicals and everything. Like, here you go.
Yeah, here's a whole stack of beakers for your hidden project. Oh, we're not gonna ask questions.
Can I have some Sony camcorder so I can film my confession?
Yes,
We can only
Yeah.
send you Sony equipment though.
that's it. That's
No
it.
Dells, only Sony. And like this is when you first see Lizard attack Spider-Man. I like the way they kind of tussle when they first fight, and the whole way that he even figures out that he's Peter Parker is that the camera Spider-Man is using to take pictures says property of Peter Parker on the camera. Don't you think that if you're going to be sneaking around as Spider-Man, you might want to take your name off the equipment you're using? Maybe.
I'm fine with that because it's the same thing as like I had a conversation with someone in my office the other day about how I never have my ringtone on my phone. And because I was like, just think of how many movies where people get caught because someone calls them and their damn phone rings. Like, you're just not thinking. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to be chasing a killer. I should put this on silent. Like,
My phone's
probably
always on
like,
silent.
yeah,
but
he's
that's
like,
just-
I'm just going to grab my camera and like, I would totally believe that he would have that there in case it does get lost or stolen. And
Okay.
it was a bit like, again, there's the whole back half of this movie very much feels like we have to rush to this, even as I think they go back to the sewer once he kind of has the information and he's like going back and forth and doing things, but he's not talking. But there's a lot of dialogue, so it feels like they went back in and like recorded some, or they just got some ADR from him that basically says like, I have to get Peter Parker because he's not saying anything.
Oh, I guess you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then you have a scene where Peter goes back to the apartment where Gwen is, and like I did find some of this amusing where he has Gwen clean up his wounds and stuff.
I have issues with this entire scene.
Okay, I want to hear why.
Let's rewind a little back, and it's super obvious. So one of the things I'm a big fan of, like, it's really funny because it's kind of true. I'm a really big Super Sentai fan, Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, whatever. Peter making like the webs and him like posing on the webbing and doing like a Spider-Man kind of like fight pose was like really like took me in and out of the moment because I'm like, man, this really reminds me of like my weird Japanese shows. But then he ends up fighting a lizard in fucking poo water. Peter Parker gets scratched and thrown around in fucking poo water, and then he ends up going to Gwen's, probably smelling like shit, and his wounds are probably just super infected.
Yeah.
That was one of the cleanest ass sewers I've ever seen in movies.
No, there's shit in the water.
Even his lab, I was like, man, this water looks really nice.
Yeah, because you're right. He's like hunched over in the water at some point, and it's all clear and flowing beautifully. I'm like, I had the exact same thing. I'm like, that's not sewer water. That's like, you know, Poland Spring. Like that's somebody just like dumping bottles of Aquafina around them. That's not sewer water. Yeah, poo water, infected wounds. Also, here's a little thing I kind of, as I was watching it, just struck me. Not too big of a deal though. She's 17 and doesn't have a medical degree, so gently swabbing his lacerations with like a baby wipe it's not helping, my dear. Her reaction should be, "Oh no, you need to go to a hospital." Not, "Here, let me lounge on you and swab you with some tissues I found in the upstairs bathroom." No.
And don't forget, we're gonna kiss too. We're gonna kiss.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then we're gonna go for a swing after I, just got cut up by a giant lizard.
Right, because nothing is sexier than 14-inch lacerations across your chest that are clearly open, gaping, poo-infected wounds. So, I mean, yeah, nothing's hotter than that. So let's have ourselves a little makeout session. It's so dumb. I guess they need another smooch.
And you got to say, at least you can say this apartment at least is pretty soundproof because he doesn't hear anything that they're talking when her dad walks by. And I did laugh at the joke where he's like, "Do you want hot cocoa?" She's like, I got cramps." He's like, "Oh," and he just walks away real fast.
Yeah, the cramps. He's like, "Okay, all right, I don't want to know. That's fine. Women don't have menstrual cycles. I completely forget about this. It's fine." It did give me a good chuckle, but yeah, that whole thing, it's like dumb, stupid.
And then you see the lizard injects himself again, and this is when he climbs out of the toilet at school because he's hunting for Peter Parker.
Well, don't forget, you have his like really weird motivation, which I think is kind of weird, but every bad guy's got to have motivation, to which he just says that everyone will be lizards and there'll be, world peace where everyone's lizards and there will be no disease and no rich people when everyone's lizards, even though I'm pretty sure there's some weird cartoon joke where like they become blobs and they're like, "Why are you still stuck up?" "Oh, because we're the grayest and the blobbiest." So
yeah, his motivation's terrible. It's really, really dopey.
It's just like we're rushing to a conclusion.
Yeah,
like,
I guess this wasn't.
It feels so accelerated now that I'm watching it. It's like I understand like the lizard where he's like he should just be the lizard all the time. Like they should never have him going back. Like they just have him being this monster and then just like, the lizard brain is taking over. And maybe that's what they're going for. And it's cheaper just to have an actor there than just put in this like CG lizard thing.
And that's probably why they did that.
And let me just take an opportunity to say that the CG lizard costume is really, it's decent. It's decent.
Okay.
It's okay, right? I don't love the fact though that lizard has human eyes. I think I don't know if that's a comic book thing, or I would assume lizard would have lizard eyes. But I wonder if they were trying to continue to cement the humanity of Connor. Like Connor is still in there, but he's this lizard beast. So I don't know if that was a comic book thing or not. But
I miss the snout. Like when I wanted to see the lizard on film, is I guess like when the lizard debuted in the comics, like he had like just kind of a flat face, but like the more iconic lizard that everyone kind of knows is like the alligator snout, and that really bummed me out. And the only time when you see him Because when people think of a lizard, they think of like the torn purple pants, the lab coat, like you see
Yes.
for 5 seconds when he climbs out of the toilet is like a nice little nod. Like I know when people first started seeing the lizard, like I think they warmed up to it as the movie came out, but the face does kind of have like a Goomba from the Super Mario Brothers movie look about it.
It
Really
does.
does.
Oh, good call.
So even then, with that's even weirder because you said, Phil, he has human eyes. When he injects himself before this scene, he grows lizard eyes.
Yeah, when he
think you're right.
turns back, yeah, because like at the end they kind of go from like yellow to like blue.
Yeah, you got a good point. Like when he was in transformation, yeah, I think he did have like those lizard eyes. It's fine. And again, I think the costume is it did annoy me. It didn't take me out of the movie. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's some goofy CGI nonsense. But I settled into it pretty quick. It was fine.
It's interesting watching this movie and watching a recent Marvel blockbuster that was in theaters, and I think the lizard looks better than most of that other thing. But we'll just leave that there.
Was it Thor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like Thor that much either.
I have not seen Thor, nor will I until I have to for this very podcast. So
It'll be a while.
I'm fine. I have no interest in that stupid thing.
Because we got to watch the rest of those movies. And I'm a little burned out on current MCU as I've been doing other Marvel movies like this, and then there's the other Marvel, like Blade 2. Like I just been in a different mood.
I will. Well, Blade 2, as we've all discussed, is a classic,
Yes.
a classic piece of cinema. So
I'm glad I got to hear that episode. I was bummed I wasn't on it because I was like, I'm never gonna force my way into an episode. I'm grateful for everyone I get to be on, but I was like, oh man, like that movie
It always bugged me.
Yeah, it's just great.
You know how to get a hold of me.
I hope Blade Trinity wins that poll because I got that DVD on the shelf.
So do I. I got Blade Trinity on a shelf as a digital video disc. I sure do.
It's on Netflix.
Remember. Oh, well.
I also have. I own a copy of the 4, and the 4th Blade movie that's on the DVD is actually just the first 2 episodes of the Blade show that only ran like 13 episodes. And they just they called it a movie.
Oh, the one that was on Spike.
Yes. Yep. Never saw it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Part of me wants to watch Blade House of Chiton, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. All right, and this is when you have him in the school fighting the lizard. I did laugh my ass off when he rips the tail off the lizard and it just grows back. Like I thought that was hilarious.
It's cool.
I really like
a very lizard thing.
Like when he's, I guess it's like the spider in the Spider-Man where he's like crawling over him and it's really weird looking, but it's also kind of cool and like very spider-like.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's funny with the lizard growing his tail back. Lizards do that. That's a lizard thing that happens. You cut up a lizard's like a little gecko's tail, it'll grow right back in not instantaneously, but it'll grow back in a few days. So I did like that. All this stuff is really kinetic and fun. It's lots of smashing and crashing and banging. I really do like the fact that Spider-Man's webs really aren't quite good enough to put a stop to him, because what he's been doing this whole time is using his webs to trap people, like ensnare them so they can't move or stick them to walls. Like that is not quite working, which I think is really good. And I like the Stan Lee cameo in this. It's fun.
Yeah, I remember when I saw it in theater, I was like, oh man, everyone was like laughing so hard.
Yep.
When he's just like totally oblivious to all this carnage going on around him, like that is so great.
I wonder if he was wearing Sony headphones during that. I wonder if we zoom in and look for a insignia on the headphone. I wonder if it was Sony. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Anything else you guys have on the library? Because it is a pretty big scene. There's lots of stuff going on, but it's more just smacking and crashing.
Did you mention the Stan Lee cameo?
Of course. Of course.
There is never not going to be a Stan Lee cameo. Every time I watch it, I'm just not going to get immediately bummed out.
Yeah.
Oh, there's new ones coming. Did you hear about that?
I get it.
No.
There was a thing that was passed through his estate that now they're going to start doing cameos in all the different products with Stan Lee using his likeness and putting him in these movies, even though he's dead and gone.
Well, I mean, they're already doing that with living people because, like, in Obi-Wan, James Earl Jones is credited as Darth Vader, but that's all AI.
Oh, that's
James
weird.
Earl Jones didn't go into a recording booth.
Oh.
Or if he did, it was very little. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew he was in it, but I thought it was just he went and did it. I didn't realize that was all AI.
Nope, he didn't do any of it, but he's credited for it.
Okay.
Interesting.
I don't know. It bothers me with Stan Lee though. Like it's like just let the man, because I'm assuming they don't. It doesn't matter what he wanted. It's all about how can we make more money off the man that we have ownership of.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and I mean, I was about to say, it's like, I mean, he lived a good life. He can let it go, but then, like, towards the end of his life, some of the things that kind of went down
Yeah.
that we're knowledgeable of is like, that's why I saw so many people, and they're like, I have to run to these conventions and meet Stan Lee, and it's like, why would you want to meet a man who's just like almost at gunpoint to go to these things and look so tired, and he should just be like home watching baseball with like Todd McFarlane or something. Todd McFarlane didn't go over to his house and like talk baseball. Like, say what you will about like him, like he was like there was some of the best moments of like the last years of his life, like after his wife died.
Yeah, things got bad after that. I felt like for him.
Bummer.
And then Peter goes into the sewer because he follows after the lizard. He finds the lab, and I have cop shooting lizard in my. Oh no! Okay, so yeah, Peter finds the lab. The lizard ends up running away and escapes, and then ends up like heading. I think he's heading towards he's heading towards Oscorp at this point to get a hold of that device that they mentioned earlier could spread a weapon. That's what they're up to for this part.
Gotcha. Yep.
And you have the cop shooting the lizard. I thought that was kind of cool, like a cool action scene. And he starts gassing all the SWAT team and everything with it. I did like that.
I don't remember seeing him actually weaponizing
He does have like gas grenade.
Yeah, but I don't remember seeing a moment when he actually did so.
They have
maybe he did it in his lab.
Scenes.
Okay.
He gasses SWAT, and then he goes in the street and he just starts popping up the canisters on the street.
Yes.
Do you have both?
Right,
of
but
those?
I'm saying the canisters themselves. Like I don't remember him actually building that because.
Oh no, you don't see that.
Okay, see, so that wasn't me just falling asleep because it was late. So initially he was stabbing himself with the goop. Then he turns around. Now he's got this gas, and we never get the moment where he actually weaponizes it and makes it gas. Okay, all right.
No, and it's not a deleted scene either. Because I just watched all the deleted scenes while we were recording without sound, and there's no him making gas. So,
and again, Blair, that's why like I don't like the lizard escalation because like like they have like I'm pretty sure it's like 80-yard lines where it's like we need something where he's working and not talking, and then his confession is just on his computer.
Yeah, because we need to get going. These movies cannot be 3 hours. We're not at this era of Spider-Man Marvel movies. And this is already a 2 hour 15-minute movie, I think.
Yeah,
something along those lines. And so it's just a little on the long side. So yeah, we can't have more than a 2 hour movie. So we got a boogie woogie. And man, you're right, Blair. This thing just hurtles towards its conclusion pretty fast.
You also have like the worst, like I think probably the worst CGI in this movie, where like Kurt Connor is explaining that he's going to turn everyone into lizards. And then there's like a weird computer part where you see like, I guess the gas spreading, and then you see a picture of the lizard go onto the computer and several lizards spread out from it.
Yeah.
It's just really silly looking.
It's ridiculous. It's almost like one of the Call of Duty games when you're like murdering people from afar, and it's just little dots and little people figures as they're running away as you drop bombs on them over and over again. Yeah, it was very silly.
And in the comments, like the first introduction to the lizard, like he was in Florida, so that makes sense. But it's just like if you turn everyone to lizards, like it's October, we're all gonna die.
The whole town is just dead.
Like you just breaking news: the New York lizards are migrating towards Florida. That's like Florida man rents B&B to lizard crew.
Why could I really see that happening?
So funny. As if we need another reason to dislike Florida. Sorry, just kidding. No offense if you live in Florida.
I have a reason to dislike Florida, and I will tell y'all later because I do not think it's appropriate for the show.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. And then you have cops are shooting at Spider-Man. I like this where they shoot him with a stun gun and they take him down. Like they completely hit Spider-Man, take him down. They arrest him. And then I thought that was all good. And then they demask him and somehow he breaks free and takes out, knocks out all the cops except for the captain. And this is when Captain Stacy sees that it's Peter, that Peter is Spider-Man. And I thought this was a good little scene too, except he lets him go, which I thought was not in character, but I guess,
He put two and two together because Peter went to his office and he was like Kirk Connors is turning it. Like, I actually like that he went to the police as most logical people. There's like, I'm going to do it myself. It's, no, I'm going to go to the cop. But he has no proof. And then Dennis Leary's like, okay, well, maybe we'll look into it because he's not exactly crazy. Even though I think Gwen says that she talked to her dad and he thinks that you're nuts. But then when he sees that he's Spider-Man, he's like, oh, he was telling the truth. There is a lizard person, and I didn't listen before because I had no reason to, because it was the ramblings of a lunatic.
Yeah, why would I? Yeah.
Well, to be fair, at this point, the lizard has turned, half the SWAT team into lizards, probably?
Yeah,
so,
at this point, yeah.
Which doesn't really factor in because at the very end, when they all return back into cops, they're in the same place where they were gassed. So it's a very we'll talk about it, I guess, when we get to that very, very end part. They are in the same place. Like it looks like they never moved. It actually, what it is probably is that the director didn't want to actually move them from set to set. So he probably said to them, stand here, shoot. All right, stand here again, shoot the last scene of you feeling better. So anyway, it's kind of a lack of continuity with them scattering away like bugs. But yeah, I dig that. I think it's also Dennis Leary realizes, again, putting two and two together, my daughter is in trouble and I can't save her. So this spider person is the only one who can. Let him give a shot because I probably won't be able to get there in the 8 minutes. I think it's 8 minutes.
Yeah, and he says that Gwen is headed towards Oscorp right now to make the cure.
Yeah, there's 8 minutes. That took you 20 because look, and I know how those cranes. You ever see a crane like move into position? That took them 8 minutes just to get that thing across. We'll get there, which might be other than Peter romantically whipping her around like. I can't even do another analogy to give her a smooch. Could be the stupidest thing in this movie. And the movie has a healthy amount of stupid things.
I like this crane part. I remembered this. This was one of the few things that stuck with me. Like, I couldn't remember what movie it was from, but I remembered this scene. I couldn't remember if this movie or the other movie. And I smiled when I saw it. I was like, okay, I was waiting for this.
I know what scene you were thinking of.
So, like, the payoff is, like, when he's escaping, Dennis Leary's like, hold your fire, but one of the cops, being cops, shoot him anyways.
Yeah.
So then Peter's hurt, and it's on the news that, like, Spider-Man's injured. Actually, there's something in this movie that, like, there's one point where he has, like, a bloody handprint, and then he kind of, like, puts his hand on something, and you see his, like, I guess he puts a handprint there. Actually, they kind of linger on that for a second, and I thought that was like a Jackal setup for the sequel where someone was going to find his blood and clone him or something. That was just like stupid comic book nerd speculation. So, like, I guess the guy whose kid he saved earlier sees that Spider-Man's injured, and he's like calls all of his friends in the Union to move the cranes because Spider-Man is trying to get the Oscorp. And Spider-Man's like, oh, they're helping me. But the thing about this is, like, I get what they're going for is that, like, he helped this person. It's kind of like in the Sam Raimi movie where Green Goblin's terrorizing the kids and people start throwing stuff at him because it's like, oh, we're New Yorkers and we stick up for one another.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So it's like they're making anchors for him. But buildings are anchors. He's Spider-Man. He doesn't need these. It's not like Batman where it's just like, it's such a video game moment where it was like, okay, Batman needs these grapple points to get there, but Spider-Man's grapple points is literally everything. And then what's even funnier is I don't think I ever noticed this, and maybe I just forgot about it. So not only do they set up the video game grapple points, someone in a SWAT helicopter takes a light and makes a path saying, run here.
Literally a video game. It's so right. Oh my gosh. It's so right. It's ridiculous. And also, again, not to get like too realistic about it, do you really think that a bunch of construction workers, why are they there at night? They're not there at night. That's complete nonsense. But even if they're there at night, you want to make some overtime? And it's, call my shop steward. I'm on the clock. We're union here. So it is just ridiculous. It looks silly. Like even that long shot of approaching the tower and all the cranes moving into position slowly but surely. Again, that would take at least 10 minutes for the things to go into position. Why are there cranes dotting this one corridor? Like, is this one street in New York have nothing but construction on it? So there's giant cranes on every single block, perfectly spaced out, so Spider-Man can. And it's the one street, I guess, where there are no buildings. It is ridiculous, and Blair nailed it all the way. It's just this stupid, ridiculous thing, and the spotlight go this way. Oh, what direction? Straight toward the giant tower that is like over everything. Clearly, this is now the biggest building in New York. Go toward that. It's all ridiculous.
I really like it, but I completely agree with you. It is completely ridiculous.
And it's steeped in like New York pride, right? And exactly. And a lot of the Spider-Man movies have that, where it's New Yorkers coming together. Blair perfectly like that example with the Green Goblin. So that's a theme that these movies generally try to do. But it's really, really strange and this dumb. It's just very silly.
I mean, I don't know. I get a huge kick out of all the stuff that happens here, where he's going up the tower and and you have the fight where he fights the lizard. I really like I mean, it's not much of a fight, but I do like it. And then the captain shows up and shoots him with a shotgun.
Yeah.
How the hell he got up there so fast? I got nothing, but
it's fine.
So I have a really weird question that probably goes into breaking the movie, but it makes a pretty good point. Why doesn't Gwen just take like a hammer to the device that the lizard specifically needs to spread lizard juice so that it just won't work?
The ending wouldn't be the same, and the movie wouldn't be as exciting, maybe?
Well, they also
I know what you mean.
the cops on the street, too.
They made a cure. They can make more cure.
True.
Yeah, this is very true. Like, you have the formula. Like, it's perfectly fine. Just smash the thing the monster needs. But yeah, like you said, we need some sort of just kind of. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. My brain completely shut off. I apologize, gents. But yeah, we just exactly. Yeah, they just need some more tension. She needs to be in peril. She can't just be up there doing her thing. So
because during this time, she's in the building.
Mary Jane in the Raimi film, she's always a damsel in distress. So this is like, we're gonna give her something to do, which is both smart and also just really dumb.
Yeah, she just needs something to do. She can't just hang out in the car, which is eventually what she ends up doing anyway. They just put her into the... Again, I wasn't sure if she dies in this one or the second one, and I'm thinking, like, when is Gwen going to die? When's Gwen going to die? And sure enough, it was not this one. Once she was in the cop car, I was like, she's fine.
Yeah, it's a second movie.
It's a classic Marvel hero fight. There's some... He knocks off some, was it nitrous oxide or nitrogen something? Cold freezy gas.
Yeah, why that's on the roof, I don't know, but yes. That's
fine, and then tries to freeze. This is all pretty standard boilerplate Marvel Spider-Man stuff. So nothing really to complain about for me. And of course, he saves the day at the last second. Or he replaces the
virus with the cure.
Yep, the virus with the cure.
And then this is also when Stacy gets stabbed, also too, around this point.
Yep,
Captain
he puts his fingers through him like he ran out of shotgun shells. And it's fine. Poor Dennis Leary kicks the bucket. Dennis Leary says to Peter Parker, "Promise me you'll leave her alone. Promise me you'll leave her alone." And he does. He doesn't really, though. He just kind of stares at him.
Like, what do I say? I like this girl. I don't want to stop seeing her.
Yeah, he's like looking at her. He's
if
like,
you go after my daughter, I'm going to come back as a Force ghost.
And he does.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things where Peter Parker was very he kind of just sat there non-committedly, just kind of like, if I wait this out, are you going to die before I give you an answer? Because if you die before I give you an answer, that's kind of like all bets are off, right?
And I wish they would have committed on that, because like when they're kind of doing the rounds, like the Spider-Man PS4 game from Insomniac, it's like the Spider-Man story is like Spider-Man wins, Peter Parker loses. But then it's just like, well, she automatically, because they go to the funeral, he doesn't go, or he's in the background, and then she goes to his house and is like, oh, he told you not to come near me. So it's not like the Mary Jane situation in Spider-Man 1 where it's just like, okay, I have a scene. Well, I guess she already knows he's Spider-Man anyway. So like she automatically puts two and two together.
Yeah, and then that's when she said, he made you promise, didn't he? And he he doesn't answer her, and that's when she figures it out, and then she leaves, and you have a small scene where they're back in school, and he shows up late, and he's like, I promise next time I won't be late, and she makes a comment, the teacher says, don't make promises you can't keep, and he whispers, those are the best kind, and that's when Gwen smiles after a little bit, realizing.
Smile. It's cute, it's good.
It is.
That's such a bad thing, though. Like, you basically kind of offhanded made a promise to this girl's dad that you wouldn't date her because something similar might happen, to which it kind of does.
It does.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Like, imagine if, like, she was still really bummed out about her dad's death, and then you have this cheeky fuck behind her being like, the best kind of promises are the ones you break, and she just turned around and slapped the ever-loving shit out of him.
That'd be great.
Like,
Oh, and don't forget, Peter comes home with the eggs too after this, because he kept forgetting the eggs and he brings home the eggs. I mean, little things, but I like them.
They're cute, yeah. I also find it though, because he like skips out on the funeral. Like he decides,
he's kind of a dick.
I'm not. Yeah, like my dude, understand?
Just because you're making a promise not to hang out with, not to date her, doesn't mean you can't go to the funeral. Like,
go to the funeral, you jackass, and then at the doorway with the rain coming down. I'm sorry, I can't see you anymore. I'm sorry. And she just turned. And again, this is really good work from Emma Stone. The look she gives him is, I can't believe you. And that is when she asks, like, did my dad make you promise? And he doesn't respond. He just, based on his lack of response, she goes, yeah, that's probably what it is. But she's still pissed. And she's still like, yeah. So this kind of little like wry ending little jab from Peter of those are the best promises to break.
She should have slapped him. I agree with you.
Yeah. The little coy smile might have been out of character, I think, for how pissed off she has every right to be. Like, every right. Here's a sweet guy. He was Spider-Man, saved the world. We'll save the world. Saved New York from turning into lizards and migrating down to Florida. And now all of a sudden he just turns into straight dick mode out of nowhere at her time of need, like while her dad is being interred into the ground. Like
a better lead into your sequel. I guess they wanted to leave on like an optimistic note, would just be like, yeah, it's your fault that he died because of all of this. Like, none of this would have happened if you would have meddled with this, and then they just wouldn't have been together. And because in the sequel, like, they are together and then they're not, and then it's so dumb.
I don't remember.
Go for your Patreon dollars for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 on Games My Mom Found, so we can all watch it.
Yes, only one slim dollar will allow us to watch Amazing Spider-Man
just vote.
2.
I'll put it on the poll if people want it, like, because I'm going to vote anyway.
Just vote. Just vote. Vote with your heart.
Your
maybe
comments, your likes, your listens.
Well, I mean, hey, honestly, that does. If somebody likes a lot of stuff, I will do it for sure if it gets people to listen to it. So, and comments on YouTube and wherever the hell you want to. I'm
going to recommend maybe next time watch The Thing, something that Mike Albertin will absolutely adore. Of course you do, because it's phenomenal. We'll all watch The Thing.
It's a good movie.
Mike, you've seen
it, we got 2 spooky polls coming up, so
all right.
you guys can choose what the hell.
We'll do maybe we'll do Midsummer. Maybe that will be good.
I watch that.
It's
I might regret it immensely after I watch it.
Right? It's a nice folk story. It's adorable.
You watch a great movie with Florence Pugh.
Yes,
we did. We watched Black Widow.
Really great.
Okay.
I love Black Widow. I will. You can listen to my review. I love that. That movie's great.
I listened to the episode. I did enjoy it a lot.
You enjoyed the episode, not so much the film on which it was based upon.
Oh, the 2-hour episode was way better than the movie.
That should be on the tagline there. Better than the movie.
Yeah, Games My Mom Found. Better than the movie. ...
Better than the movie.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just that whole, just to kind of wrap it up with her, it's that kind of wry smile. Movie ends, music, and then we get this weird mid-credit scene that I do not understand.
I didn't know there was one. I didn't watch it. I just turned off the movie.
I always skip ahead to see if it happens, scrub through it to see if anything pops up, and sure enough, it did. It's Connor in a cell of some sort, and some dude with a scratchy voice saying, "Hey, don't go. We need to go after him." I guess meaning Spider-Man. And Connor is like, "Don't go after him."
Did you tell the parents did you tell the boy about his parents? It's like, remember when this started about his parents? Like, just to remind you, so we haven't touched on them for like 2 hours.
2.5 hours. Yeah.
Okay, that's just. Is it like
I don't know, I don't
also
get
like
it. What
connecting
was
to
that?
Sinister Six? I think.
He's in the sequel because I think like in the sequel they have a base and it has like Doc Ock's arms and Vulture's wings and there's like Venom something on a computer. It's so
Everything you say about this sequel makes me want to see it and talk about it.
Paul
Not see it on
Giamatti
my own.
as a Russian crazy man in the who becomes the Rhino.
Oh, good Lord.
Rhino.
Oh, God. My son, he watches, he's 6, so he's not watching this stuff yet. But he watches, you probably haven't seen it because it's for kids, but it's like Spidey and his amazing friends.
Oh, doesn't have the Fall Out Boy does the theme?
Yeah, that's the dope. Yeah, that has the dopey Fall Out Boy song leading into it, correct? And it's kind of adorable. It's Spider-Man and Miles Morales and Ghost Spider, and it's like whenever I think of like Rhino, because I haven't seen him on film, and I guess since I've seen Amazing Spider-Man 2, it just seems adorable, right? And now thinking of Paul Giamatti as that character again just sounds deliciously bad. And oof.
It is.
It's fine.
That movie is. I'm looking. I didn't want to watch it. Now I do, just because I feel like it's gonna be hilarious with us.
See, that's what I'm glad because like when I saw No Way Home, I was like, I don't want to watch the Andrew Garfield movies again, but I do because it reminded me of how good he was. But then I just thought to myself about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I actually went back and watched the Half in the Bag review for Red Letter Media. And Jay brings up the point where it's just like, you can rearrange this entire movie and it wouldn't make a difference because it actually doesn't have a plot. It doesn't make any sense.
Hey, my 8-year-old son, when I bought it for him, he loved Amazing Spider-Man 2. He loved the opening with all the police and Spider-Man. So. Well,
there's good, like the costume's nice and there's some good Spider-Man stuff, and it's just like everything else is just trash.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in watching it. Now I am. After us talking for 2.5 hours, now I'm interested to watch this movie.
Because again, this movie is like it's trying to kind of toe that like not quite the Nolan line where it's like, okay, we have like a grittier version of Spider-Man. It's kind of not like the like. Not quite camp version of Sam Raimi, like it has to be different. Like everything back then was like it has to be like the gritty, set in reality kind of like Dark Knight, Casino Royale type of story, which doesn't really work for Spider-Man. Like that's not what Spider-Man is. I don't know. This whole enterprise just reeks of like ashcan film.
Yeah, it's just Spider-Man's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun and save the day and small scope. I mentioned this, I think, in probably one of the MCU movies. I like Spider-Man because usually the stakes are small. And that's cool. Like I like that, right? It doesn't have to be the big blue laser from the sky where all the space slugs come from this and the people on speeders come and attack things. It's really, I like the smaller scale. That's cool. I actually like the fact in the MCU, he's usually a complimentary character. Like he's helping out, he's not, if I remember correctly, he doesn't really have these moments where he's doing Iron Man stuff or Captain America stuff. He's doing Spider-Man stuff, and that's good. I love that.
Yeah, in Far From Home, he's like, someone else should do it. Why are you getting Spider-Man to do it? Like, there's so many better people.
Right.
And they kind of have a line where Nick Fury is like, we can't get anyone else. Essentially, you're the only one who's left.
Yeah, you are our literal last option. Hi. Yes, you're playing. You're first on the kickball team because nobody else wants to play. So there you go. Hope you feel good about yourself. So yeah.
All right. Any last things you want to say before we go to shelf stacker box? Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to put this on the shelf. I really, really like this film more than I thought I would, and I haven't seen it in years. I just had a great time. It was just, to me, it's a really good film. It's a really good Spider-Man movie, and I just love the way, again, as I said it before, Emma and Andrew are in this way. Those two characters interact. It just makes me really, really enjoy this movie. So it's going on the shelf, and I'm glad that people voted for us to cover this. Oh, what about you, Bill?
I'm going to stack this one. It's it's kind of hard to go back to these movies when the newest trilogy is out, and especially Spider-Verse exists in this world. And obviously, that's not something that should count towards a criticism, like an actual critique, because it's not the movie's fault it came out in 2012. But as far as a constructed movie, it's fine. I think this is a good Spider-Man adventure for all the reasons everyone has stated so far. But it's not something I think I'll visit again ever, unless I need a refresher before watching Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I'm certainly I won't. So not a movie I need to have on the shelf, but I like it. I had a good time with it. It just kind of was a good 7.5 out of 10 if I was going to do that, or 8, maybe an 8. So yeah.
Okay. What about you, Joe?
I think this is also stack. This is probably something to where, like, if someone was ever like, hey, you want to watch the entire Spider-Man series just because, I'd probably be like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's just with this one and what ends up happening in the second one and all the different ways they treated Andrew Garfield, I probably wouldn't really watch it. Also because it's like a part of its own time, kind of like the original Spider-Man movies. They're parts of their own time too. But I still liked it.
Okay. And you, Blair?
Yeah, I'll put this in the stack. My feelings on this movie have gone up and down since its release. Like, I remember, like many people, after Spider-Man 3 kind of burned everyone. I kind of was out of the Spider-Man thing for a while. And like after Iron Man, The Dark Knight, it was like, why do we need this? When they started having the teasers, I didn't understand why they were just doing another Spider-Man origin story. Like, it seemed way too soon. But when I saw it, I thought it was like, yeah, this is well constructed, and I like the chemistry between these two people, and I, at the time, wanted to see more. But now, as I've gone back and kind of looked at, like, the original Spider-Man from Sam Raimi, it's just, like, it clips by so fast, and it's so fun, because it just has, like, his stamp all over it, where I watched this, like, for this show, and like, I kept pausing it, and my fiance was like, are you done? I was like, no, I just need to take a break for a second because, like, it's a little bit slow.
That's fair. All right, and that wraps up that section. And if you do want to hear more Spider-Man, we have done a few Spider-Man movies so far. Not many, and I will tell you what the Spider-Man stuff we've done is as soon as I pull it up, because I was not prepared, even though I should know. All right, we have done Podbean being slow. I don't do a lot of editing.
It's fine. You can just edit it out later.
Because I can't get it to load. All right. I did Spider-Man Far From Home, MCU Film 23. Spider-Man 2000 with Blair. Episode 131. Spider-Man Homecoming, MCU Film 16. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Film 9. Great movie. And Spider-Man, a Genesis game based on the animated series with episode 26. We haven't done a lot of Spider-Man stuff yet. But okay. So that's what we've done for Spider-Man. If you do want to hear more Spider-Man. And Bill, where can people find you at?
Yeah, I do a podcast entitled A Gamer Looks at 40. It's a, I feel like I've said this tagline for a year and a half, but it's it's kind of it's a collection of stories from different people who have enjoyed different games and eras. It's, I feel like that we all have stories of games and video games that have affected us during our lives. And this podcast are collections of those stories from different eras or different systems. I also have weird little side content I'm putting together now as well. And I think it's a neat show. Mr. Mike Albertin has been on the program a number of times. There is a Legend of Zelda series coming up that's going to take about 2.5 months. We're stepping through the entire franchise era by era. Feel free to
get me back. For the
man.
Stuff.
I still have a lot of interviews to do.
I know.
So much. But anyway, so please check it out. A Gamer Looks at 40, wherever you check out your favorite podcasts. And maybe I'll become your 8th favorite. Who knows? That is for you to decide based on your listening tastes. So yeah, check it out.
That's the way that I plug it now. I say it's a show where you interview people about how games have affected their life.
Much more succinct. Yeah, I know. Yeah, much more succinct than the minute ramble that I had. It was like an Andrew Garfield ramble. I was a games podcast. That's kind of what it was. So very
also,
good.
As I say, much better produced than my show because you actually interview and cut things up and do what I don't want to do.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
No, I give you credit. And Blair, where can people find you at?
You can find me at on Twitter at Blarcade. You can read my work at comicbookvideogames.com, where I reviewed every single version of the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in game, including the Ultimate Edition on Wii U, which is the best version to own. I also wrote a book about Spider-Man video games, the Web of Spider-Man games, the Amazing and the Not So Spectacular, which had I re-released last year under a Turbo Edition moniker that I'm really proud of, and it's very inexpensive. You can get it digitally on the Amazon Kindle store, and I guess don't know when this is going to go live, but
End of this month.
Okay, so you'll probably be able to see a review for the animated film DC Super League of Super Pets tie-in video game.
I look forward to that one, actually, because I feel like it won't be that good.
We'll see.
All right, and if you enjoyed this episode, I mentioned at the top of the episode, this was voted by Patreon. We do have Patreon polls every month. The current poll, which you have, like, if you're listening to the day this comes out, you only have a couple days to vote. It's Marvel or DC, Blade Trinity, Shang-Chi, Shazam, or Aquaman. You get to choose what movie we're going to cover, and just for a little $1, and it helps me out. And I'm going to do more with the polls eventually. I'm eventually going to do more with the Patreon. I just haven't yet because I don't care enough yet. But that's coming. So definitely go check all that out. And want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Hatsphere. You can follow her on TikTok. She made our music. She does a lot of TikTok, so definitely go follow that. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. YouTube at audio only, but we are there. And if you want to communicate with me, comment on YouTube, comment on Podbean, comment on Facebook, you will get a hold of me just fine. I'm actually starting to take recommendations from people. We actually just did an episode that came up earlier this month, Mega Man 7, which was recommended by a guy. And it takes me months to get to your recommendations, but I will eventually try. Because I write the schedules way in advance. Like, way in advance. I know what I'm playing the whole rest of this year at this point, so that's just how I am.
I'm excited for my recommendation.
It's coming. It's going to get on there. Because I need to play it. I need to play it someday, so it'll happen. I'm going to try to do it the next season I write, so early next year, my plan. But I think that's everything I need to say, so we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.